Right by the side, I was saying, we gon' gather us on my other nation. One day it's gon' be a celebration. We on our way back, yeah, we on our way back, the mighty jungle, my people will unite. Just tells us that we'll go into the wilderness a second time. Children of God, you better know that. Our homeland, one day we gon' go back. I can't imagine what it's gon' look like. I'm talking go play the streets, imagine being a king. I can't help but tell the truth. I'm giving you something to look forward to. You got to know that something better is coming. As soon as I see them gates, you know that I'm running. We gon' be on our way to right beside our Savior. We gon' gather us from all these other nations. On that day, it's gon' be a celebration. We on our way back to Zion. That we on our way back to Zion. We on our way back to Zion. We on our way back to Zion. Ready to tie. Better be playing. Somebody is tired. Shy. Coming back in the clouds. Coming back with spirit. Last time it's down. Hold up. The body, one person can provide one for most. See, Paul was at the day. Highest life, it's light work. It's light work. There's more to come. You can overcome it. Just wait. You know the cooler can't wait. You see me saying his face. All along, it's been a black man that made everything inside space. A black man. A lot of people go hate. A lot of people go hate. If you want, hey, try running inside them gates. We gon' be on our way to right beside our state. We gon' gather us from all these other nations. On that day, it's gon' be a celebration. We on our way back to Zion. 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 Imagine it, even if I tried, I'd be lying. Won't guarantee you nothing. Guarantee you catch me trying. You sidestepping, we high stepping the other way. It's sweet time. The end time is like the end zone. Let the time, I know you can for my high life in this lower state. And try that OD for my heritage and Deuteronomy. Can't spell roots without the OT. Trying to bring people to the most high. Trying to open eyes to who don't see. These giants are no tyrants. I'm looking at them, they 4 feet. The people that you hate will be the righteous women and kings. So this BTC will not be on TV screens. Got the whole team with me. And when it came on, we gon' praise the most high. And get our damn blue like wow. We gon' be on the way to wow. That's right, I was saying. We gon' gather us from the it's gon' be a celebration. We on our way back to Zion. Yeah, we on our way back to Zion. We on our way back to Zion. We on our way back to Zion. Wake up, it's time to give thanks. Look like your hands giving you another day. No smoking, blood flowing through your veins. Lift your hands and give God all the praise. Don't you be ashamed, don't you be Cares upon me. Trusting God is with me. Everything is done because of His only Son. One day I'll take back what's rightfully mine. Once upon a time, walking and doing my dance at the same time. Can't dance, snap your fingers like this. Know that the joy of it all is your strength. Oh! Take back what's rightfully mine. Walking and doing my dance at the same time. Can't dance, snap your fingers like this. Know that the joy of it all is your strength. Compromising your life seems like there's nothing going right. Know that it's working for your good. And put your trust in Him and let His joy take flight. Take back what's rightfully mine. Walking and doing what there's a second time. Can't dance, snap your fingers like this. Know that the joy of it all is your strength. Can't stop. Take it back, rightfully mine. Walking and doing my dance at the same time. Can't dance, snap your face, girls like this. Know that the joy of it all is your strength. Just let me see you till you can't stop. One step at a time. Just let me see you till you can't stop.
Shalom, and that last song was Reid or Yehudi, hopefully I'm saying that right, and the name of the song is Joy of Yahuwah. And before that, we had Sharatazah to Zion, and that song is also featured on the GOCC compilation, I think 7. And he's also a cousin of a member of the page Friends of Robert. So shout out to you guys doing your thing and ministering musically as well. So shalom, everybody. I'm sorry we are tardy to this party, but we got in the way, had to make some drop-offs, and we're home and we had to coordinate. I am Sister Sheeka and I would say, the co-host of Christianity on Trial. I'd like to thank Maria for subscribing. I just saw your subscription. So, And today I'm going to be talking to Brother Khayyal. I don't know the whole name, brother. You don't have to tell everybody. And then Brother Garfield Reid is joining us. I have watched your work, Garfield, and I see that you're trying to help in the area of finances. I'm also trying to help that area as well. And you're both welcome to the show. I guess it's really a discussion, not a show. I'm not performing for anyone, but I'll go ahead and let you brothers introduce yourself and what you're about and things that you're doing. So we'll start off with Brother Khayyal and then Brother Garfield.
All right, thank you. Well, my name is Khayyal. The name that you have is Khayyal Kayode Ajaka. And it's a Yoruba name. That's what I subscribe to. I subscribe to being a descendant of the people who come from the Yoruba nation in West Africa. I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm not really a fan of me personally of, just sitting here talking about Bible scriptures all day. I want to talk about how we can apply the scriptures and, make social change. I don't mind dealing with the scriptures, but I think that they're there for us for a reason. They're not to guide our lives. And that's not ideology. It's not for me to guide my life. It's for me to build a foundation on and then become ourselves on. And, I've been in this way or this walk, whatever, since 2002 or 3-ish. But I did not become a Hebrew Israelite until 2011, 2012, somewhere around that time period. And shortly thereafter, being in the Hebrew, community, I kind of got, used to things, and I got set in the ways. And at some point in that, I started to do my own independent studies, and I realized that a lot of things that were being taught to me and taught to us just as a whole and in general through a lot of the elders, and it's not their fault, but a lot of that stuff is not information. And so I just went on a 10-year journey to find what the real information is and make sense, because that's what my little background is. And my whole point is just to help people to get to the point of where they can free themselves from mental bondage and, and be able to grow and understand things for themselves instead of just being, indoctrinated with stuff. I want to make people think again. But thank you for your time.
Absolutely. There's nothing new under the sun. And I think when it comes to application, it's a lot of places where both Christians and Hebrew Israelites fail. And so we need to make it more of our mission to implement what we are reading and understanding and researching. So I'll let Brother Garfield go ahead. Introduce yourself and what you're doing.
Hey, peace and love. Peace and love. This is Brother Garfield from the Dagger Squad. And I do a lot. I'm not going to take the time out. I'm just saying I'm a special guest tonight. That's all. That's all I'm going to say tonight. All right? You guys can check me out on the Dagger Squad YouTube channel, our Dagger Squad Debates, our Dagger Squad Financial Services, our Brother Garfield. Got a couple of channels, and that's about it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your presence. And so I wanted to first start off with Brother Khayyal and I kind of recapping what we talked about. We were going to go live. I decided to call instead. Have this call. And by the way, this is called Volume 1, because I talked to Brother Abishai today, and he's like, he wants to get in on this conversation. So because the polarities are so great, I'm going to have a separate conversation with him, and then I would like to invite you guys back and all talk about where we agree and disagree. Okay. So we were having a conversation, and it's so fitting for the day it is, about whether Native Americans are Israelites. A lot of people kind of subscribe to the 12 tribes chart and everything else. However, I on my father's side, I do have Negro Native ancestry, and we were here, and we were Negro, and we were not like infused with people who came from both. Not everybody went through that. And so what we did realize, I think what I realized, my takeaway from the conversation, is that we have to stop saying that everybody is every thing. You know, everybody who came off those boats are not Israelites. Everybody who was already here, already not Israelites either. There are specific people who have the history, who experience spiritual markers, and that is what we need to start looking for. It's not the flesh that we wrestle against; it's the spirit of principalities that we're warring against. There's some white devils, there's some black devils, there's some brown devils, there's some yellow devils, there's some red devils, and so we have to get more specific about who we're talking to, who we're trying to congregate with, and some of these people are infiltrating movements like these and other movements that have taken place. Even on the Christian side, we have a young white Christian lady running around saying, "Hey, we need to give reparations to these people," thinking that everybody who's Christian should agree because it falls in line with the Bible, but it does not. No, it does, but they are not, and she's wondering why, because they're not of the same spirit. So, with that, Brother Khayyal, what did you take away from this?
Well, I mean, what I took away from it was basically, and I think that the major separating factor in a lot of people is the fact that there's different history. We have religious history, and then we have secular history. And a lot of people are looking for religious history in secular texts, or looking for secular history and religious texts, and we got to understand how to properly look for both of them. Look for what we're looking for according to what source we're going to. Like, we're going into, and me personally, I'm not a fan of the religious texts, because I think religious texts have an agenda. So I think that, to get back to the American thing, I'm sorry, I got sidetracked. But with the whole Native American thing, I think what I took away from it the most was that, I agree that they're definitely, if we're underneath that paradigm of believing that we're Native, we're Hebrew Israelites, then according to that belief, then there would be Native Americans that would be Hebrew Israelites according to the trade routes and dealing with the Phoenicians and the Canaanites that came over here. And I think that the most important thing is just really just understanding, and like you saying earlier, not lumping everybody into the same boat and saying that because a person is a Native American that they're all Israelites, and that's folly. It doesn't make any sense. There's no logic behind it. It can't be scientifically tested. Like, really, a lot of that stuff can't be tested. But if we're doing the religion historical portion, then we got to stick to religious sources that are valid sources. There's something that's not created by Christianity, because we look for Christianity to give us answers about us, but we got to understand that Christianity is a religion, and they have a purpose. It's a theology that has, their entire point is to control or to educate people about a system. And so I think that when we look at these people, look at these Native Americans, we can't just say because I believe in God and if they good people, they all suffer just like we did, that we can't lump them in and saying that, hey, they are all Native Americans, they're all Gad. And that's all I'm saying. And we got to also acknowledge the people who are in West Africa who we came from, because if you're claiming to be a tribe of Judah, or you claim to be a Hebrew Israelite that came over here on slave ships, that means you got family in West Africa, and those tribes are still there. They didn't take everybody from Africa. They took massive amount of people. And so we have to look there as well. And so we have to and that's why I'm RBG, because, like, that's where we came from. Like, we have to connect back to our source, and we have to acknowledge, like, the majority of the people that's in West Africa do not claim to be any Hebrew tribe. And so we can't look for, religious titles in our historical searches. And that's what we're doing as Hebrew Israelites. And I feel like that's one of our downfalls, because we're just looking for something to tie our religion and make the religion make sense instead of looking for actual facts. And that's why I was saying we kind of got to purge between facts and fiction, what's historical truth and what's a historical religious account, and those things are totally different. And I'm sure, I ain't gonna talk. I'm kind of long-winded today, so I'll let Garfield, get his 4 or 5 cents or 10 cents.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. I would say this, the title's called Fact, Fiction, or Truth. People will say, aren't facts truth? Yes, but all truths are not facts. Okay.
You're right about that.
And we should be able to understand that and take things that we read, that we feed into ourselves with that thought that I don't know if it's true, but is the message the truth? And is it something that I should be adopting into my life that will make me have more peace and make me operate better? And so that's the standpoint I'm from. I used to, be looking for the truth, like for a couple of years in college. I was like looking for the truth. I was looking for different religions. I was like, maybe I need to go ask him, maybe I need to do this and do that. But unfortunately, after that search and after everything, I was still in the same position I was when I started. And I wasn't able to grow spiritually. And I think what makes me grow spiritually is following, expecting spiritual truth. Also with knowledge of other things, but you get a spiritual truth, and then you're able to grow spiritually. You have to accept some type of spiritual in order to grow spiritually. And of course, those who are Hebrew Israelites subscribe that the Most High is the only thing that's going to yield that. While other people do gain understand who are who kind of like understand even what is represented as they understand something true. But at least they committed to something. We have people not committed to something. Because they're so, oh, but what about this? What about that? And that's my concern. You'll be researching forever. But what are you going to commit to? My question. So I'll let Garfield go ahead and because some of what we said, what did you hear that you agree with or you disagree with? No.
Hey, I didn't hear the last part, sis. What was the last thing?
No, I said just to let us know what you agree with, what you don't agree with, just weigh in on what was said thus far.
As far as what? Just the Bible itself, or just what?
No, just about how do we spiritually grow? How do we spiritually grow? We have to make some spiritual commitments in order to grow. We have to keep on searching and digging for something that we may never know the full answer to because it's not there. Or is it good to dig, but then understand that certain things are spiritual truths?
Is it me or the sister was chopping in and out?
No, it's kind of chopping.
Khayyal, you know what? You need to mute your mic, beloved, because that's why she probably chipping in and out on my end.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, sister, but can you?
I'll repeat.
Yeah, I'm sorry. All right, go ahead.
As far as spiritual growth, is it true that somebody has to spiritually commit to something in order to spiritually grow to understand truth? Do I have to commit to the faith that I find in the Word in order to spiritually grow, to even find out that everything in the Word is not an eyewitness account? So,
all right, let me address what you said. You see, we're in a conundrum when it comes to the Bible. Hey, Khayyal, see if you can try to go with the question. Yeah.
I'm trying to. I just now allowing me to do it on my phone. So can you mute me, Sheek?
All right. Let me talk a little bit louder then. All right. So basically, what I want to say to the family out there, first of all, peace and one love to everybody. Whenever you're gonna grow as an individual, it's hard to grow what you would call spiritually when what you're saying is not based off of facts. When what you're trying to believe and growing is not based off facts. Everybody's gonna have their own conclusion of stories and storylines and so forth. But to each his own, man. I always say this to everybody: two people should never believe. You got to grow into. It's like I'm saying I got God's beeper number, right? I have a contact with God. You can't have the same beeper number I got. You gotta have your own connection to that creator or God or whatever you believe in. Two people shouldn't share it, because if two people share the same belief, you're creating what's called a religion, and that means you are forced to accept stuff based on the fact that it's your religion. But if you're gonna research, you gotta just go where you can't. You see, religion and spirituality and facts and science don't mix. It just don't. Because every religion, every story, if you go to Australia right now, they have their own creation story. If you go to Africa, you got thousands of tribes in Africa. They all got their own creation story, or whatever story where the people come from. So for me, if anybody's gonna grow, you gotta grow into what you're gonna be by doing your own research and try to practice to your go to your roots. Find out what your roots are and find out what that system is, and maybe you'll find something common with that system that works for you. But you can't mix archaeology, anthropology, linguistics, DNA, and history with belief. It's not going to work. And that's why the Bible believers are losing a lot of people, because they're trying to mix it. It's either you believe or you don't believe. Because once you try to confirm it, that's where a lot of people lose their faith, because you can't confirm what you believe. Especially if it's a storyline that you have evidence for from different cultures. You know, with the Babylonian and the Persian stuff, I'm well rehearsed in it. I know all the overall stories, I know all the primary sources. So it's like if somebody come to me and said, "Oh, the Bible says this," and when I look at the documents from the people and the primaries, it don't say it, then I'm going to be condemned for being an anti-Bible person. But all I'm doing is just pointing out the information what we can see. The spiritual growth, you can't mix it with facts and science. You can't. I don't think you can. But I'll leave it there.
Well, I agree with you, Brother Garfield. I think that you have to understand that there's a spiritual truth, and there is some truths that probably can't be substantiated today, but we don't know. We're talking about what we have left. You know, we're talking about what is left. And unfortunately, how I feel, because there's been a Tanakh only guy who just trashes the New Testament every day. And I'm like, okay, do you understand that the book that you're reading also came from the people who said that the New Testament, that you're saying the New Testament was made up? So nobody has an authentic piece of things. We can go back to autographs, and I think that's what Khayyal is going to talk about later. But in order to spiritually grow, you have to spiritually accept something. You have to accept it. And then the Ruach HaKodesh will lead you and guide you, and will teach you through conviction and revelation. But you have to be seeking that. That's why it says knock. And the door shall be open. Ask. You'll get what you want, you know, but you have to be on that road. I think sometimes we get on a road of where we're researching, trying to find the truth until we hit rock bottom and find the absolute truth. And I'm like, you will not find it because you were not there. However, I don't discredit that. I think you do need to know what's going on. But as far as spiritually growing, you have to commit, and you have to submit yourself to some spiritual power to lead and guide you. Hallelujah, my grandma said that, in your walk. And so that's where I am. Khayyal, did you want to add anything else?
No, I fully agree with Garfield and yourself. That's Garfield just basically.
Brother, I can see you. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Are you off mute? Oh, I'm sorry. I have you on mute. I apologize. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that I agree with both of you guys, and I feel like you both did an excellent job of articulating what I had, what I was.
Here you go. I'm sorry. You just came in. So whatever you said, we didn't get it. I apologize.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I was just saying that I totally agree with both of you. Guys. I feel that that's our biggest downfall is combining history with religion. And I think you both did a great job of articulating that in your presentation. So I'm fully agreed. But to add on, I know you were talking about like I'm going to talk about autographs and manuscripts. I mean, I would like to, I guess, dive into that as well. Because like truth be told, we don't have any autographs. Like we have none. So that just that it kills the entire. It makes the conversation very very short. We have zero archaeological biblical autographs. We have manuscripts. We have thousands upon thousands of manuscripts, and most of those have greatly differed from the original. And a lot of us are looking for some type of truth about ourselves in these 100-time altered, redacted, omitted, manuscripts that are very, very far removed from the original text that was scribed, if they even were scribed originally, and we got to add that to the equation too, like how do we even know that we like came up with this stuff? Like we have to question everything. I don't think in the community questioning is allowed, and so therefore it kind of is hindering to spiritual development of people, and we end up being spiritually connected to something that's outside of our indigenous culture. And this is how you end up with Hebrew Israelites on the street corners with dresses on, yelling at people. Like that's not our culture. Like, I mean, West Africa, they may wear long garments, but they don't wear stuff like that. They're like that's Roman stuff. But we're looking at this stuff, and we don't have the ability to go through these texts and disseminate which is actual facts, which has been redacted. 99% of Hebrews can't even read or even read functionally a Hebrew word, so they don't know what's being changed in the text. They're just going with the King James version of the Bible, which is a production of the Textualist Receptacus, which is a 100% pure Christian-made book. Like it's made for Christianity, like made over 1,000 years, and we're looking for quote unquote Hebrew religious faith, some kind of spiritual truth in a book, but we don't want to acknowledge the fact that the hands of this book has been in the hands of our perpetual enemies, the people who enslaved us, people who hated us the worst in the world. They took this book. I don't even say they took it. They created this book, and then we feel like it's us because we feel like it started off in Africa and we have a connection to it, but the connection is far removed from it. Like there's nothing spiritual, African spiritual about the book at all. After you get once you get the Book of Kings and stuff like that, it has nothing to do with Africa. These are all Greek, Zoroastrian, and Roman philosophies and ideologies, and we try to attach ourselves to these things, and then we wonder why we have this hate internally for actual Africans, because we're not even spiritually connected to it. And that's what the problem is. And that's what my biggest thing is. Like, most Hebrews would not even admit they're African. But Israel's in Africa. If that's what you say you're from, you got to admit to that. But they can't, because they have changed their spiritual system from a henotheistic spiritual system to one that's monotheistic. They have changed their concept of heaven and hell, this Messiah complex. They added all these different things that are purely Christian. And we're trying to ingest this stuff as if it somehow makes it somehow it's part of what we additionally did. And that's the most frustrating part about it all for me, is that the elders in the community are not equipped with these tools, or choose not to, because at some point, you got to look back at your doctrine and say, hey, I need to change this. And a lot of people don't have I would say decent, they have too much pride to even rethink or revisit the doctrine that they put forth for so much, and so many people have been now introduced to it, and now they're spreading this thing that has no factual value to it. And that's my biggest thing, is just restoring the actual truth. If you're going to be a Hebrew, you're going to have to, quote unquote, keep the culture of an actual Hebrew. Like, tell me what Hebrews did. Tell me how Hebrews lived. Tell me what Hebrews ate. Like, I don't see none of that. I see a lot of people doing exactly what the Greeks did or the Zoroastrians did, but I don't see anybody doing anything that looks remotely African. On no street corner out there preaching this ain't Hebrew Israelites, I don't see not one African looking garment. I don't see not one African looking practice. I don't see nothing African about it. But you say that you African, or you say that you Hebrew, which is an African. That's my biggest gripe. I'm sorry, I'm long-winded. I apologize again.
But here's the concern about that with Hebrews. The concern is that we were on the west coast of Africa and we got scattered. What did we get scattered for? Were we doing the things that they were doing? Has that been eradicated since then? Now, keep in mind, the people who are there didn't get scattered. So clearly, either they were doing something right or they were doing something wrong. We really can't know. And then when we were talking yesterday, when I told you is that I was talking to brothers from Africa, and I was like, look, I have heard Africans say that they don't know what this transatlantic slave trade is all about. And they said that the reason why that occurred is because they don't teach it in their schools. But I was like, I don't care what they teach in schools. They don't teach the Tuskegee Airmen in school. They don't teach that in school. But we know it happened, and it has long reach and long consequences for people in our community. And so to not notice 22 million people leaving a continent, I mean, that's like a lot of people. It's like, if somebody knows somebody who got taken from the continent, and how come is that present in oral tradition or not? It seems to be not, because this brother actually said, and he was not the only one, I talked to a few, so that they learned about slavery through Roots, watching Roots on TV. It's something that people claim Alex Haley plagiarized, you know, and was sued and settled, you know. So it's like, I do believe that the transatlantic slave trade happened. I do believe that the Arabic slave trade happened too. Unfortunately, with the Arabic slave trade, people were castrized and therefore not allowed to mate and have any type of pure bloodline. But it just seems like it didn't happen to that scale. And then you have to explain, well, what were all these people doing here? And then you have to come off that you discovered the world, and then you have to come off some money because we were already here, and you got to give us what you gave the Native Americans. And that's what, unfortunately, our last president, Barack Obama, ended when he took out the word Negro, which classified a lot of people, all the Black African slaves and all the Black Negro natives that were here. It classified us all. And so that was an attempt to avoid having, God bless you. Okay. I'm sorry, my dog is having an allergy attack. And so that was an attempt to, it's an attempt at modern day gentrification. You know, this DNA stuff is a fraud. How are you talking about DNA and who's who when it says clearly in the word that they came out a mixed multitude? So therefore, there's no DNA that you can prove is Israel. And I just watched a rabbi today try to prove that and argue that, and he was not called racist when he said white people were Jews. And the Black, oh, let me mute you. I'm sorry. And the Black people who were saying that they were the real Jews was called racist because they said the Black people are the Jews. Well, which one is it? Either you're racist for saying the color is a Jew or you're not. And what I saw was blatant disregard for anybody Black who said that they were Jews. You know, we talk about markers. You're talking about a marker that a people are testifying to have. It is not true because you don't know who that ancestor is. It could be Jacob. It could be Esau. And we know that the Romans used people from Idumea to rule over Jews. Then he brought up Egypt and said that they weren't Black. And I was like, what? And brought up this study that was debunked by the people in the land, both Black and white and in between, because where they dug up was an invader's burial ground. So anyway, I'd say this. I think that we definitely are the people. Not everybody is the people, and we need to research history, and we need to research facts, and we need to understand where that is. I am one of the Hebrews that do believe that people can be grafted in to the nation and can sojourn with tribes. Okay, so I'm sorry, I got passionate on that. Brother Garfield, you want to come in?
Well, you said a lot. Friend calling me while I'm on the air. All right, so pretty much, I would say that there's a everybody's gonna have their faith, and this is to the brother in the audience who's in the chat saying that to ask Garfield this. It seems like when a lot of people see me, their blood pressure rise, so they have to like act crazy whenever Garfield is on any platform. I can't be on your platform because you know what? It's Garfield. But I do want to say that a lot of Africans are remember they were colonized for years, whether it's through Christianity, whether it's through Islam, whether it's through Jews coming as teachers. And remember, a lot of the history in Africa is recorded by white folks. And what we do now, we record the history now because remember, a lot of cultures in West Africa, outside of the Mali and the Timbuktu folks and all these African folks, a lot of things were oral. They weren't really writing things down. So now that the European comes in, they want to write things down, but they are going to put their own spin on the history. So a lot of the history that we have in Africa has been corrupted because of people who have their own agenda. Because remember, in Africa, we're looked on as Hamites, and we're looked on as a cursed people. That's why we're black. So what happened is everything that's built up in Africa that's great, they would now say, oh, it's because we are connected to Israel or Egypt. It's called the Hamitic hypothesis or the Oriental hypothesis. So now you have to go to like tribal leaders to really get the true history or whatever has been brought down, because it's hard to carry down a history because everybody's a human being. And if somebody tells me a story about Khayyal right now, in 10 days, by the time the story gets back to him, it's going to be changed. It might not be 40, it might be 40% of the story. So that's what happened in Africa. A lot of the stories have been corrupted. But as far as what you say about people not learning and all that stuff, I can't disagree with that stuff. But you said a lot, but I have nothing really to add to what you said. All right.
Yeah, I did want to add one thing on too. Can y'all hear me?
Thank you. I certainly did say a lot at one time, but I was going into where people are acting as if, I mean, 22 million people are a lot of people. Okay. There should be some type of story. There should be some type of evidence of this happening. And we do see the slave trade port. So we know it happened. I don't dismiss it. I just don't believe that every African or every Black person who arrived here from Africa came on slave boats. I just don't. And we have two Turtle Islands. America was called Turtle Island, and then there was a Turtle Island.
Hey sis, can I address that because I forgot to address that what you just said?
Okay, go ahead.
All right. There's a lot of misconceptions, and we gotta relax for a minute and take a step back. All right. We don't trust the white man, but we use all his information. I read an article, right, on my channel this week, like around Tuesday, where there's an article that since the 1960s, the government of America has been collecting every person that has been born from the 1960s DNA. And the reason why they're collecting it, because they want to check you for certain diseases, certain things that you might be born with. Khalal, if you can mute your mic, I'd appreciate it, bro. So now,
All right,
we put ourselves in a position. I think I muted you. Yeah, I just muted you. All right, I got you. All right, so now we put ourselves in a position because a lot of folks say they don't trust DNA. But when you're pregnant, they're checking the child's DNA to see if he might be have some sort of early intervention problem, whether he can't talk, whether he can, because of technology, they're able to do that now without your permission. So now for years, so people run from DNA and all this evidence stuff, but yet still the government has been collecting your DNA. So they have sometimes you wonder how they solve crime. They've been have your DNA. But anyway, besides that now, the sister said something about Turtle Island and blacks being here all this time. I need to clear something up with this. I did it last night on Sunday. I have to say this. The reason why we believe this because we have not studied really and truly what happened with the slave trade. About 380,000 people came directly from Africa to North America. During the 1700s, the Caribbean supplied North America, the British colonies, with most of the slaves. We outnumbered them 3-1. There was a war, I forgot the name of the war right now, where after the war, around 50,000 natives were shipped to the Caribbean, right? Those slaves were replaced by African-born slaves from the Caribbean. They would leave from Jamaica. Jamaica, by the way, received 1.2 million slaves through that small little country. Because right now, Jamaica's population is around 2.5. So you might be saying to yourself, why would Jamaica have 1.2? Well, we have the records of it. We have the records. But they didn't come 1.2 million at one time, and neither did the 380,000 come at the same time. So we got to also remember slavery ended in 1808, and the illegal slave trade went on up until the 1900s. So those people weren't documented also. So you can't, it's hard to figure it out. But also, you got to remember the Spanish colonies, when they first did the first census in 1790, everybody that picked black said they were from Africa. Because I have the raw data. I got the raw data from the University of Pennsylvania. So I could prove that all those people said they came from Africa. So everybody who's in America, so these
but it was law, Garfield, that if they said that they were Native American, that they would go to jail. And so we have
no, sister, hold on a second. This is what I do. I don't throw out information that I can't prove. I don't deal with hearsay. This is what I'm going to tell you right now. Remember, in 1790, you are now making an excuse for people who had birth certificates that said, and when they answered, their parents were Africans. So if you're telling me that they said that they're Africans or black, remember, we had reservations, and people were living on reservations and had their own census. So we know where the natives were. So we can't jump out now and say, oh, I'm gonna discount what Garfield says because if you said you were African, you wouldn't such and such. You are a slave. You're on a plantation. There's nothing great about not having your freedom. Why would you want to choose to go on somebody's plantation and claim you're African and be a slave rather than be on your own plantation and be on your own reservation? It makes no sense. But let me finish and say this. In 1790, what happened is we know who were natives too, because they were other people. They would click off the other button, which means other than white, and they would say who they are. So we could document and show who people is. But bear in mind, this is only the 13 colonies. We're not counting the Spanish colonies. We're not counting New France. We're not counting New Sweden. We're not counting New Amsterdam. We're not counting none of those places. Although New Amsterdam changed to New York in the 1600s. But we're not counting all these places that don't belong to the British. So while the British, and remember, these people had babies. We act like if 300,000 people came here, whoever came here didn't have children. We had breeding farms in the 1800s where women would have 20, 22 kids, one woman. They would breed them. They were trying to make super babies. So we can't come here and say black people was here. There were people who were dark-skinned who we can consider natives. There's no denying that before Columbus. There's no denying that. Nobody's denying that. But those people, let's look at what Columbus said. Columbus said they had hair like the horse hair, right? Which is straight. He also said that some of the tribes had tails. Do we have black people who have tails running around in America right now? So we got to go back and see what the people actually said, the primary sources, and deal with it. Not just take a small little clip and say, that was us. No, I don't believe anybody from Africa was here. I believe dark-skinned people was here, because if you study the skin map, if you live in the equatorial area near the equator, you're going to have dark-skinned people. It's just logical.
But then you have to believe that people, black people, African people, never left Africa, but everybody else did. And
no, sis. I'm not. Listen to me carefully. Listen to me carefully. And what you're saying is the next big debate that's going to be in the community. because we believe in Ivan van Sertima because he was a professor and a doctor. So we said, and Clyde Winters and all these folks who claims they have credentials. But we're asking people to listen, look at the evidence. And when they play, me and Clyde Winters, who's a great guy, I guess, he's on my timeline. I called him out. He came on my timeline and he says he believes in Atlantis. Atlantis is in around such and such. Plato wrote about. He said, I'm believing in the white man, but Plato is the white man who we got Atlantis from. Nobody thinks about that. He's not a white man because we like the pseudo information. But yet still, Atlantis is supposed to be bigger than Africa and Asia, but yet still it's outside of Africa. There's no way Africa, as big as it is, and Asia, as big as it is, there's some island floating on the ground that is as big as that. It is rubbish. But we gravitate to false information. It sounds good. So that's our main problem. We love to believe, but when it goes back to what you said at the beginning, sis. We love it because it sounds good. Yo, I heard this brother say that, man, so I'm going to repeat it without even checking if it's factual. Anything I say right now on your show, I have to respectfully, if I don't have a source for it, I can't talk about it. If I can't prove it, I can't talk about it. No African, no Egyptian, no Asian, I won't say no Asian, but nobody was sailing boats from continent to continent. There is no evidence of it. Even with the Mansa Musa story, it's a Northern African traditional story, and there's no evidence. If there was evidence, it would have been easily been found. 2,000 ships? Are you serious?
Well, we can't find the evidence of slavery either. We can't find the evidence of slave ships that existed that we could see that humans.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We have tons of.
We have documentation that they made. We do not.
Sis, go to the African American Museum, and you need to. You know what? Are you my friend on Facebook?
No.
I could send you documents showing you how we have African men, Black African men, or African Americans who have a club that searches for ships. And there's no such thing as a slave ship, by the way. It's a cargo ship. It was a cargo ship. Till now, there's no such thing as a slave ship. No ship was designed for slavery. These are cargo ships that men had and they made. And they went from continent to continent. So we don't have slave ships. We have cargo ships. So this ship might have been a slave ship in the 1700s, and then in the 1800s, it's doing something else. So this is why the slave ships, you won't find slave ships per se. And remember, the pictures, or we take pictures of ships. Remember, before 1839, there was no such thing as somebody taking a picture. There's no still picture and no picture where people could actually take a picture. You had drawings. This is why with King James, you have drawings of King James, drawings of all those people before 1839. This is why Nat Turner, we had no picture of Nat Turner. There's nobody to draw Nat Turner. But we have Dred Scott because Dred Scott was in the 1850s. So those things play a role. This is why you don't have no slave ship. You only have drawings.
But not all of the slave ships made it to America. So we should be able to see it in the sea. We should be able to dig it up by now.
Okay, sis. Who's going to dig it up? The white man? Who's going to dig it up?
They're claiming that this is the history. This is the history that they're telling. So why wouldn't they be able to dig it up?
That's why I just told you there's an African American diving club that finds stuff. You need to get hip to that. They have found a bunch of stuff. They are the ones looking for it. We, Black people, not white people. Why would they do that? They already admitted to the atrocity. They kept very meticulous records because every slave had to be on an insurance. So if you jump off the ship, they get paid for you being on the ship. These are documents. So
but the documents don't amount to 22 million people.
No, 22 million people were not in the slave trade. That's wrong. There's no 22 million. What we have documentation of is 12 million leaving from Africa, but only 10.5 million survived. And the 10.5 million, the majority went to Brazil. So if you look at Brazil, Brazil had over almost 5 million slaves. Brazil is where the Dutch was making the money. And the Jews that controlled, who converted over 200,000 blacks. You got to read Soul of Judaism by the brother named Bruce Haynes, a black guy, sociology teacher, just came out. He talked about how we converted to Judaism from these white folks. We converted. You got to learn the whole thing, sis. Don't throw away history because of people pushing stuff in your mindset. It's not only disrespectful to the ancestors, but it's disrespectful to us because we're trying to carry a legacy on. You cannot run around and just say this didn't happen. Go into each culture and dig.
I'm not saying that it didn't happen. I'm saying that the numbers are inflated.
The numbers are perfectly fine, sis. You just haven't looked at the number. So you're saying that all this information Emory University does falsified? All of it?
No, but I never get the amount of numbers that I hear.
10.5 million.
Like 22 to 70 million. I never get those numbers. I get.
You're not going to get it because, listen, sis, 1.2 million is documented to come through Jamaica alone. Came through Jamaica.
How does the continent, whether it was documented or not, the people on the continent don't remember? That's like what
the people on the continent. The people on the continent don't remember slavery. What do you mean don't remember? They weren't alive when slavery was going on. How would they remember?
They weren't alive, but things passed down. I wasn't alive when the Tuskegee Airmen experiment happened.
Exactly, but you're saying that, but you can't speak for everybody in Africa, sis. You're speaking for a small amount of people you had conversations.
I'm speaking to the people that I have spoke to from Africa. I'm like, why are you not responsible for this? No, it hasn't been millions of people, but I'm like, what is the reason why you guys do not know about the transatlantic slave trade? And they said that they were not taught it. It's not in their curriculum. But it does. But things are not taught in the African American community here. Yet we know that they happen, and they will not teach about it because it is an atrocity, and it holds certain people guilty. That's why we won't learn Black history.
You are not a scientist. You are not an anthropologist. You would have to go do a survey. You would have to do a survey of hundreds of people. You cannot talk to like 10, 20 people and make a conclusion. That is crazy. You got to go look at search for Uhuru.
So how are they learning about slavery?
I'm on mute.
I'm on mute. Search for Uhuru has gone to Africa and gone all over the continent. He has even explained the kingdom of Benin and the word Judah in Benin. And come on, you got to talk to people who have gone throughout Africa.
Well, I'm asking you, what would be the method that they would actually learn about slavery? According to the Africans that I spoke to, they are learning about slavery from watching Roots. Okay, so what documentation you prove that they are learning about slavery within their communities because it was a factual
where did these people come from?
Huh?
Where did they come
from? One came from Ghana, another was, Khayyal. One was from Ghana, another from Mali. I forget where the other people are from, but they were from different parts of Africa. And I'm like, y'all not being accountable for this?
All right, so can y'all hear me now?
We're talking about 10 to 20 people that I've asked.
But that's not
Hello. Can y'all hear me,
brother? Go ahead.
I've been trying to.
All I'm asking is, what documentation do you have that they are being taught the truth, either orally in their communities or through curriculum or through any type of knowledge besides watching Roots? They are saying, the ones that have talked to me have said that they have learned about the slave trade by watching Roots. So I just kind of feel like even if they caught to it, what other, I guess what I'm asking for is what other information are they getting that teaches them about that is not media?
I'm muted.
That's what I'm asking
I want to talk. All I want to do is talk. I'm on mute. Let me talk for a second. I've been wanting to talk for so long. Can y'all hear me? Can anybody hear me? No. I'm on mute.
Hold on. Oh, there you go.
Okay. Can y'all hear me now?
Yes. Sorry.
Oh my God. I was about to explode. This is the West African spiritual systems that's built 100% solely on the return of the ancestor. You need to look at the Fon people, the Iwe people. They have a system called T'Challa. T'Challa is the spiritual system where they pass down and they pray for the return of their ancestor that was taken by the white man as slaves. These are the traditions that you gotta look for. You can't just look into, and these are remote cities, these are remote towns. These are not like what you're gonna find in Lagos or Abeokuta, or you're not gonna find this in Accra. You're gonna find this in the actual communities that have griots. These people who have Babatunas or Babalawals, people who are passing down their history. You can't go to the average person in Nigeria and say, hey, when's the last slave taken from you? They have no clue. Just like we have no clue. If you ask the average person here in America about slavery, they have no clue. And that's being disingenuous because you're not actually asking the people who are the source for information. You're asking random people. I don't go to a college and ask the janitor about how to do a scientific experiment. You ask the person who's the science professor, right? And you got to go to the source that holds this information and ask them, and they will all tell you, yes, we there was millions of slaves taken from here. It was terrible. We feel so bad for this. But if you ask a person who out there, just like a regular Nigerian who's just trapping and trying to be like an American, he has no clue. That's what I'm saying to you. This is what we said yesterday. And I can literally give you a list. I'm driving right now, but I can give you a list of 5 separate spiritual systems that are in the Ivory Coast and West Africa that are 100% dedicated to the ancestors that were taken as slaves. So when you ask where are those resources, where are those documentations, where are those oral traditions, they're all there. You have to look for them. They're not going to be advertised. This is not something that's advertised as mainstream. Just like you don't see the Orishas, or you don't see Vodun, you don't see any of those things mainstream advertised, because these people have been colonized. And when colonization happens, one of the main tenets of colonization is education. So now we have to teach you to how to think like a European, how to understand our values, ideologies, and that's what made in West Africa. And they have no way to even find what the truth is, because they have no text resources. And
But
that's why they have to go back.
even with the Orishas, that it still manifested in the Americas as Santiera, and it had many more faith, like kind of morphed, into whatever religion that they were. We have the knowledge that, we must have came from Africa, but where is that coming from? I think that we did come from Africa, a majority of us, but I think that Negro natives were lumped in. And so, like, I have a niece who took a DNA test, and she has native on both sides. She is obviously, you can look at her and see, like, she is native, versus me, where you have to look, I'm Black, and I'm sure my DNA is going to be lined up with West Africa, but my hair is straight. So you can't say I'm not Black because my hair is straight. And I've actually had to face that issue for a long time. But we can't go based off of what we look at like or whatever. We have to go based on the history. And the history was that there were Negro natives here, and that there were Negroes who came from on the boats of West Africa. There are both. And I think...
And yesterday when we had our discussion, I agreed with you, but to a certain extent. I would never, ever say that we were here in mass numbers. I agree that, I take a separate approach than Garfield. I respect your opinion, but I think that we had people who were here prior to, and like as far as the Phoenicians and the Canaanites, and we have Hebrews who, quote unquote, who claim to have traveled here. And so those things are documented. Those things we have, like,
I can't, Khayyal. I can't let that slide. I can't.
Okay, go ahead. What part?
All of these stories are coming from a white man who actually claims that those people were white people that came here. The Canaanites were white, and this is a white supremacist who actually Ali Muhammad uses. His name actually skips me right now, but he used to work with the I think with the not with the Smithsonian, I think with Yale, and he used to work in a whole geological department. But because he used to work in the geology, he comes around and puts this information out, and we in the Black community, what we do is we swallow it, and it gets repeated so much times that we have people like David Imhotep using it. We have people like Clyde Winters using it. We have people like sometimes Ivan Van Sertima was using it. And so we like information that makes us seem supernatural, and then what we do is blacken the information and say Black people. There was no Black people traveling. There's no record of it. There's no genetic evidence. There is nothing. Even with the cocaine mummies, we use that, which we have debunked because we found out that it was contaminated. That's the final stuff by the actual people who did the research. But I want to say that if I'm bluntly saying this, I'm not even holding no punches. I'm being an absolutionist right now. I have never seen evidence of Black Africans, let me make that clear, coming to North America. Now, people saying, but what about the dark-skinned people that we see on the walls? There are dark-skinned people here because you have to study the skin map.
What about the Olmec?
Because people don't believe in the out of Africa theory. People don't believe in evolution. But you have to, if you're using it every time we speak, because the skin map has to do with evolution. All these things got to do with where you are, what location, what temperature, Why the Chinese got a round face? Why this person got a bigger nose? Why all these things got to do with evolution, people transforming. It all plays a role. Not saying for everybody to be evolution. It's fine. But all I'm saying to everybody that's listening is this. Stop falling for the everybody's dark issue. Dark people was here. What about the people in Peru? Let's look at the people in Peru. Were there dark-skinned people in Peru? Maybe there were. Were there dark people in Ecuador? Maybe there were. Right near where the equator is. The skin map says that those people would be dark. It doesn't matter. But what we're doing is we're being culture vultures. And we got to respect other people's culture. Peru and the Mayans are blatant homosexuals. That's their culture. They used to give young kids, right? They used to give their young kids boys to sleep with before they got married. That's on record. The Mayans did the same thing. You look through the whole Peruvian culture, you see all type of evidence. Hold on, sis. All type of evidence that they have left behind showing that they were homosexuals. That's not us. That is not us. But the point of the matter is we want to look at the culture and say, oh, we don't want to be African. We don't want to be attached to Africa. We want to be attached to here because we were here first. Dark-skinned people. Show me the people. Show me them. Show me the culture. Show me the culture.
The Aztecs were the nuclei tribe that actually formed the Aztecs was a black tribe called the Sheeka. Ironically, the Sheeka tribe. Turtle Gang, they're his whole thing. I forgot what they're called. I forgot. But he has documentation of his people being here, of America having roads and everything. We can go to Queen Califia, which they say is a myth. But those people are sitting out there today. Nobody talks about this big migration of African Americans to California, but they were there. And that's why when you see Ice Cube, he has those dots on his faces because they were already those people. These are myths. These are oral traditions, but it doesn't make them less true.
But I think what you're...
Oral tradition got Eisenhower.
Can I ask you one question, sis? You said that you have a source for all these tribes and stuff, right? Now let me ask you a question, right? Mm-hmm. You said something about a source. What is the source? I didn't hear the source.
I gotta find a source, but these are things that I'm putting together as I read. I collect information.
Sis,
I'll give it to you.
You know what we're gonna do tonight? I'm gonna have to get your contact information because what happens
and I'll give you the information.
I don't want to come on your show. I don't want to come on your show and tell you that you made that up. Because let me tell you something. I've heard a lot of the conversations. People on my
It's shown in pictures that Europeans were boring.
But
it's a conspiracy. You see, now we're gonna go to the conspiracy talk, right?
But no, what we can't do is we can't just say because a person has dark skin that they're automatically Israelites or African. It has nothing dark skin has nothing to do with your country or origin.
You can't sit there.
Exactly. So that's my point. Both of us has no proof. And if this was a legal case, this would be basically they would just dismiss the case.
No, because that's how they found out. What's his name? The black guy who's working for the government is not Theodore. I believe it's Eisenhower was really black, and his DNA proved it because they exhumed his body, and it came through African American oral tradition, which a white European substantiated is oftentimes true. We cannot say that.
Hold on.
By some that is not true.
Hold on. What you said a while ago? You said something about Eisenhower, the president, was black.
It's not Eisenhower. Who was the FBI person who was found out that he was black?
J. Edgar Hoover.
Yes, Hoover.
J. Edgar Hoover.
Found out through African American oral tradition. What I'm going to say now,
sister, Hold on a second. Sis, hold on a second. You're saying a lot. I'm gonna ask you. It's your show. I'm gonna ask you right now. You said J. Edgar Hoover, he was the head of the FBI from the 20s, I think, to the 60s. You're saying that J. Edgar Hoover was really black. Am I correct?
Yes, according to American law.
Wow.
According to who? According to
American law, which means that if you have 1/8 black, you are black. He had half black.
All right. So let me ask you this. So if that's the case, then, right? That means every white person is black.
No, it does not mean that.
That's what
Yes, because every black person, every white person in America, listen, every human, in fact, comes from a black woman, black person.
Oh
Let me
yeah,
trace it
but
back to mitochondrial
DNA
DNA.
wise, they
So
wouldn't
now
show
that means
what
the
they were talking
DNA.
about.
That means the DNA.
They're talking 1/8 like your grandmother
Okay,
being black.
okay, okay.
Yeah, but Garfield,
Yeah, because people.
I think this is actually the root of the entire Hebrew fallacy is because they see somebody having dark skin and automatically boom, oh they from Africa, oh boom they from
Right.
Africa, they in America, boom they gotta be an Israelite because they got on fringes on their garment. That has nothing. Those things are not. Those things are not. I guess proving each other as facts though. That's what I'm saying. Like if
1/8
I
is
walk,
talking about a grandparent. That means that you have a grandparent who is black. That's what 1/8 means. It doesn't. It's not talking about genetically, which you can find out because genetic tests weren't available at the time. So
all I'm saying, what my point is that we are grouping people into this black thing
right.
that doesn't really exist, and we're not actually looking for where they come from. You know, like the people who live in Africa, in West Africa, are West African or whatever tribe or whatever, you know what I'm saying, nation they come from. And these people are totally separate, and we talked about this yesterday, from people who are the Dravidians. Dravidians are darker than me. Like I have Dravidians that I've seen up here. They are way blacker than me. Some of them have hair way nappier than mine. But they're not African. They don't live in Africa. Like they're not Hebrew. They're not Hamitic. Like where do these people come from? Why are they so black? And we can't say that the darkness of a person's skin makes them something. It's called pigmentation. It has no relation to your lineage. That's the whole point I'm making. It
well, I'm
has
not saying
nothing to
that,
do.
but you can't say that Hebrews were not already scattered here when we know that scatterings happen time and time again, over and over. You can't say.
But one thing we have established though, that first and foremost, that the northern tribes of Israel 100% did not come in droves to North America or South America. That's a
Can I
fact.
can I can I can I add something real quickly?
I've never.
Can I add something real quickly here?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
It's very important that the show started off of how people could build their spiritual system, and then when they hear facts, right? Now let's look at this for a second. In the Bible, we're gonna go to the Bible for a second. We're gonna go to 2 Samuel for a second, right? 24. I think it's 2 Samuel 24:9. We look at it. It says that God, that the Israelites, the men of the army was 800,000, right? Now, when you look at the Assyrian records said that they only took 27,000 from Samaria, right? Now, 27,000 from 800,000 is less. That is less than 10%. That's less than 5%. So now, if 5% of the population was taken out, and we actually know where they went, because the Bible tells you, some went to Persia, and some went to Assyria in the near the Kabul River, and some went somewhere else in Assyria. And another thing is the people that were taken are people that went in to help the government build up, because that's what they deported people for, to build up
That's
their
what.
government.
And that's
So
what.
now
That's
they
why
weren't.
they.
So
Garfield,
hold on a
can I
second,
comment
brother.
for a
Hold on,
second?
hold on one second. Hold on one second. Hold on one second.
I'm
So
finna
that
answer your point.
no, hold on. So that means, ladies and gentlemen, that 95% of these quote unquote people in Israel were there. There's no lost tribes of Israel. We know where they went. It's documented in the own book. And on top of it now, we have the same people that had those Yahwistic names because we find them. This is why Nebuchadnezzar originally went to Judah, because he heard the people with the Yahwistic names that helped build up Assyria are there. Plus, he was familiar with the Igibi family, who was a Jewish banking family. I don't know if they were black, white, red, yellow. I really don't care. So the people saying that there's this lost tribe of Israel and they're scattered, got to realize that's a part of the mythos of the Bible. You don't have to believe me, but if you see the numbers, you got to think to yourself: if 800,000 men were there, I would say I would add another 400,000 to say that there were women there too, and the children, I would say another 400,000. So I would say there was 1.6 million people living there. And if 27,000 people were gone, the culture couldn't change, because there's so much people living in the area. So if we go by what the Bible says, you can't you got to think to yourself, wow, less than 5% went. And if we count the women and the children, that is much, much more. So there's nobody lost from Israel if you even base off the Bible alone. It's people who later on took some of the old ancient stories and remixed it, gave it a Puff Daddy remix, and give it some in the Apocrypha and some in later chronicles and so forth. And then now we're saying people are scattered all over the earth. There's nobody scattered, family. I'm not disrespecting anybody, but there's nobody scattered. It don't make sense. But go ahead, Khayyal.
So people are
Nah,
not.
what I was saying
Corners of
was
the
to
earth.
add to your point when you was talking about with the I guess the restructuring and the building of these different networks and different people. They were taking specific people. They were taking like the chiefs. They were taking the priests. They were taking the people that were involved with politics and structuring of government. These were the people, and they weren't actually even taken as doing these captivities. They were actually taken that whatever they were more like invited or kind of expulsed from their land, I guess you would say. It wasn't like a slavery type of situation. These people were actually they had their own homes, they were making money, they had their own villages, and they
Yeah,
were there
you're
to
talking about the Babylonian one. You're talking about the one
yeah,
with
yeah, the
Nebuchadnezzar. I'm
Babylonian
talking about the
captivity.
Northern Kingdom. I'm talking about the Northern Kingdom.
Yeah, okay, my bad. I'm talking about the southern right now, but the reason why I'm talking about this because this leads into our next point, because it actually was the introduction of the Zoroastrian, I guess. Well, this is around the Zoroastrian influences on the kingdom of Israel, and people deny this. They look like it did. It feel like it didn't happen, but there was definitely these priests, these Levites. They were taken. They were helping to build up this kingdom, and then from therefore they actually were replaced by the Zoroastrian system, the Zoroastrian priests in Israel. And it's a book that, matter of fact, I shared it with you today, Garfield. A couple of books that are specifically 100% about this, and we deny these things ever happened because we are so focused on reading what's in this Bible as if it's absolutely true. But the truth of the matter is, like, if you Christian or if you Muslim or you a Hebrew Israelite, you a Zoroastrian. Like, and that's the actual fact. Like, you believe everything that a Zoroastrian person would believe, except the only difference is you believe it in Hebrew. And so that's my entire purpose of my entire existence is to get people to realize that this major event happened and it greatly shaped describing of these texts. And yeah, I digress, but y'all can go ahead and add on to that.
Absolutely. I do feel like that where Israelites went did have influence on what they did believe, etc. I would say this though, and I will ask this question. When Yah said he was going to scatter his people to the four corners of the earth, you both hold to that only happened during the transatlantic slave trade?
No, I don't. First of all,
Hey,
yeah.
Khayyal,
First, hold on. No, let me go right quick, Garfield. It'll be 30
go ahead.
seconds. First, this is the thing. God didn't say anything. That's what we got to believe. We got to understand that. This book, God didn't write this book. Man wrote this book, and this book was redacted thousands upon thousands of times. Like, literally, whenever a new king took his position, he had to rewrite the scroll. This is in the Bible. Whenever a new person took position of power, they had to rewrite these scrolls. These people were part of the Sanhedrin committee. This was a democratic society where they came together and said, what law do we want to kind of change right now? Yeah, we don't like this law. Let's change this law. So God didn't have anything to do with it. Matter of fact, and most of these are Gentiles. These are not even native born Hebrews who are making changes to the law that we attributed to God. So we got to really be understanding, like, God didn't write nothing in this book. So we got to take that out of the equation and deal with facts. That's all I'm saying. Go ahead, Garfield.
Yeah, I see the sister made a comment in the chat. The lost. I have a book coming out, right? It's called "The Misconception, the Misinformation" by the Black Hebrew Israelites, Volume 1, right? And one of the things I'm going to talk about is different claims by the Hebrew Israelites, and I think it's going to help the community very well. You see, to believe something, you don't need any form of confirmation to believe something. Because once somebody says something that's opposite to your belief, you're looking at them now as an enemy. You're trying to take me out of the word. So Khayyal is an enemy because of what he just said. Garfield is an enemy because he's clearing up archaeology and some history that he found and can confirm things. With the lost lunas, there's something called the lost lunas, and the lost lunas inscription. You got to study it because the writings is what gives it away. Certain writings and certain way they formed the Hebrew is how they give it away, so that it's somebody modern did it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you find out. You see, I'm learning Hebrew. I have to finish learning the alphabet and read Hebrew before I put my book out, because I have to double check the scriptures with my teacher, and I also got to make sure what I'm putting out makes sense for people that also read Hebrew. I have to respect that fact. So at the end of the day, during my research to put my book out, um, the Lost Lunas actually is one of the things that's in my book as one of the misconceptions. So when the sister said they're digging up graves with Hebrew, yes, there's truth that graves were dug up in all over the world with Hebrew writings. Because guess what? The Hebrews were the number one bankers in the world. They were the number one lenders. And this is why I know that the black folks in America is not connected to them. Because everything that they did during the medieval time, the black and white Jews, black and white, let me just basically say that, because Jews could be any color. But the thing is, we are so caught up again with this blackness. Everybody's black. We don't understand that that anybody who follows Judaism, that the brother just talked about, the Zoroastrian and the Greek connections. Because let me ask the brother this, Khayyal, and I want you to answer this after I'm done. The 12 tribe concept is not from Persia. It's from Greece. And when the Greeks took over, they rewrote the text again, or added to the storyline while they were told to write the text. So there's nobody in history that wrote about the 12 tribes outside of the Greeks.
Correct.
So that's something that we have to think about. But
And
in the
and that's
underlining story, was there a place called Israel? Yes. Was there a place called Judah? Yes. But was it as big and huge as we see in the Bible? No. Everybody tells their own story. If Garfield writes his autobiography now, Garfield's gonna say he was faster than Usain Bolt in high school. He could jump over 2 buildings if he was fit. I mean, you were gonna embellish things. That's what we do when we write. So now for us to say that we are descendants of these people, that's a leap, a real big leap of faith. Because that's what British Israelism taught. And that's where Daniel and all these One West guys get this from, saying that the people came over, and everybody who they say came over was white. Everybody. Till they start saying King James was black. Come on. That's what we do. That's what we
yeah.
do, family. But the truth of the matter is, again, sister, if you want to have a belief, don't get history involved. Because you're going to get hurt. You're going to get hurt because the Bible don't line up with history. It doesn't. Point blank. Quick example. Taharka. We know about Taharka in the Bible. Remember when Sennacherib went, and this is going to be my book, by the way. It's a chapter called Sennacherib and Hezekiah and the Lost Tribes of Judah. That's what the chapter is called. And this is something that nobody in the community talks about. They don't talk about all the people from Judah that was taken out by Sennacherib, and he took 90% of Judah out. Nobody talks about it. It's in the Bible, but nobody talks about it. It's in 2 Kings. But the point that I'm trying to make is Hezekiah said he got help from Taharka. Taharka was like 4 years old when Hezekiah was king. He became a ruler in the 600 BCs after Hezekiah died. But because Taharka defeated the Assyrians 3 times, whoever wrote the Bible remembered Taharka. So he put Taharka in the Bible and said Taharka is the one that helped him to defeat the Assyrians, which wasn't true.
But maybe
But
it
in the
just
Bible,
to add to your point though, it may be kind of
yeah,
like Kemet. It may be kind of like, you know how in Kemet, when a new Nasut takes a position, they redo the walls and uplift themselves and romanticize their story. That's the same thing that you have in the biblical text. Like, and we got to be honest about this. Like, when the new person came into power, how can I uplift myself to being this superior person? Because like when you actually read the scriptures, like I believe it was I want to say in First Kings. I can give you the verse when I get home, whatever. But actually, Hebrew Israelites will enslave Hebrew Israelites to build a temple. Like
but they romanticized it to the point where we're looking at it like, they didn't mind doing that, but they built this temple for free by force. They were forced to build a temple, and like these are things that we see, and then you see this constant demonizing of the northern tribes by the southern tribes, and I kind of want to connect those dots too with the northern and southern tribes and the whole Israel and the Judah thing, because like I fully agree that we didn't go by those names. We didn't go by Ephraim. We didn't go by Judah. We didn't go by Levi. We didn't go by any of those names. And like you said, these are Greek names that they applied to these tribes. But what I'm saying is, when they were actually in existence, they were going by different names. Like, for instance, you had the people who claim to be Israelites. They go by the name Aja. In West Africa, the Aja are the people who we have traced back to the Judites being equivalent. You know what I'm saying? You got people who are like the Ga, and then also the Dumbe people. You got the Ga and the Dung. Those are Gad and Dan. You know what I'm saying? We got the Limba people. You know what I'm saying? You have all these different people. None of these people go by any biblical names. And we got to take a look, and we got to actually think, maybe they didn't actually go by these names. Maybe these names were put into the book the same way they put into this book this name of Jesus, or this name of whatever these deities are, Xerxes. We know his name is different. Depends on what, watch that. It's just a lot of stuff that's in this Bible that doesn't add up to common sense and to research. And that's my thing. Like, if we're gonna be these people, let's not be these people based on a book that the Europeans have a great influence over. Let's be ourselves based on oral tradition of people in West Africa. That's where we came from.
But here's
Khayyal.
Yes,
hey,
sir.
Go ahead, sis.
Here's the problem. The problem is that let's go through the oral tradition of only people in West Africa. There's oral tradition of people who've been here, like on my father's side. They've been here. They've been Negro. They've been Black. And then we're saying, oh, no, we can't do that because they have straight hair. I have straight hair. But if I take a DNA test, I bet you tomorrow it's going to come back. It's going to be West African, just like everybody else. So to say that we cannot accept everybody because of skin color, which I agree with, we have to accept people due to their history, and not a history that you can say can be proven by these white institutions, because it was proven that Hoover was Black. It was proven. And it was coming from this little girl.
It was proven that what, sis? I didn't hear that. It was proven that what, sis? Hold on, brother. Let you finish. What you said, sis? I didn't hear that. You said it was proven that what?
Proved that Hoover was Black, and it all came from this one girl who heard the stories in her family that are passed down. We cannot deny things that people are hearing.
Sis, I'm gonna let you know that no, sis, you cannot do that. You cannot. I'm gonna give an example why you can't do that. The Igbo right now, you have people in Igbo land that says that they come from the Sephardic Jews from Europe, the northern, the Igala. Right now, we know that the Sephardic Jews are converts. They would early on take blood from them, and that would make them convert to Jews, physical blood, because they weren't born Jews. Okay?
But you can't say
now,
that.
Hold on, sister, hold on, one second, sis. Now these Nigerians, because they had over 6,000 missionaries in that region, I understand how the Bible got into their culture. And some of them lost it and decided that, hey, I'm a rock with the Hamitic theory and say, hey, I'm from Israel or from whatever. It's been developed. But the point I'm trying to make to you, just because somebody tells you an oral history doesn't make it true. I have Jamaicans right now. Hold on, sis, hold on 1 second, sis. I have Jamaicans right now from Jamaica. Sean is in the chat. He could be a witness. There's a brother called himself the Jamaican tribe of 12 tribes of Israel. They're saying that they are the real Judah in Jamaica and everybody else is fake. And they have an oral tradition that tells them that. So we can't fall for the oral tradition trick. You got to go in there and do research. Because I could say right now, I came from Israel and make up a story. Anybody could do it. But because we're...
But I've done the research on my family. There are documents. They are Native American. They were here and they were Black. Matter of fact, my father says that I look just like his grandmother. Okay, so how she looked just like me? I was like a lighter version. He was like, no, you look just like my grandmother. So now that's not a fact because.
But I think you're missing the point though. The point is,
you gotta work both ways.
No, but the point,
I think you have to accept.
What you're missing is being black is not a representation of where you come from. You know what I'm saying? Like it has those two.
That my DNA would be different than yours because my family was Native American. Is that what you're saying? Because it doesn't come out that way.
What I'm saying is I don't know what your DNA is. What I'm saying specifically is we can't keep using this word black as if it's inclusive of everybody who's the same. I'm not using that, but you're trying to exclude people without understanding their history and their oral traditions and then dismissing it. Am I saying that every oral tradition is true? No, but there are oral traditions that have been true. Namely one that people accept as the truth, which is the Bible. The whole Bible was an oral tradition. Everything was oral before it was written down. So you cannot say...
Okay. You know what, sis? I'm going to ask you a question right now. Let me finish. Do you know how... All right, hold on, sis. Do you know how many verses are in the Bible, the Old Testament alone?
No, I don't know how many verses are.
All right, let me tell you right now. It's 23,145 verses. Now, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but I guarantee you if I say, can you recite Genesis 10 or any verse in the Bible or any chapter in the Bible, you can't do it. I guarantee that. But I'm going to tell you this right now. You expect...
I know Genesis 10.
Why would I be...
Hold on a second. You don't know who you're talking to. Family. Hold on.
I know Genesis.
I'm like, you don't know who you're talking to.
Genesis 10 is genealogy. It's genealogy. These are the sons of...
Hey, listen to this, family.
Hey, I'm just... Okay, Garfield.
Listen to this right now.
You picked the most Hebrew verse ever.
Khayyal, hold on a second. Khayyal.
Right.
Nobody is disputing that people carry down things. But listen to this carefully. When the northern kingdom, the people removed them. They removed the priesthood because remember in 2 Kings 18 or 17, it talks about they had to bring back the priesthood.
Yes.
To Israel to show them how to worship on the land. So they got
and Nehemiah 10.
Right?
Nehemiah 10 too.
So who is the person? Hold on. So who is the person carrying down the tradition if the priesthood is gone? Who is the person? There's no priesthood.
No,
the Syrians believe that the priesthood is there.
Nobody heard what
get them to God to turn against them
or observe what they were doing, and they couldn't know. That's just like I was in a Catholic church. I bet you I can do the whole mass from top to bottom because I was observing and I was listening. So to say that you can't carry it on without a leader is fallacy. But anyway, let's go on. Let's go on to our.
But actually, can I add on? The reason why he's saying that because in this period of time you had the Sadducees. The Sadducees were the carriers of oral tradition. These were the people who were the families and the people who actually taught their kids. Then you had another group. These people were called the Pharisees. The Pharisees were the legalistic portion. Typically, the Pharisees were the higher social class. These were the converts, the people who practiced Judaism. And that's why you see this great disparity between the Pharisees. Even you see Jesus or Yeshua coming at the Pharisees because he was actually contradicting the oral traditions and the actual culture of the Sadducees, who were the actual people who were indigenous to that land. But go ahead. I digress.
But we're going to go to the next portion. We're going to go through stories of the Bible, and we're going to tell whether it's fact, fiction, or truth. You ready? Both of you
go ahead, sis.
Okay. All right. Genesis, the creation story. Fact, fiction, or truth?
Is it fact or fiction?
Yeah.
It's pretty much a story. It's just a storyline. It's just a part of the mythos. That's all.
Okay, Khayyal, what do you think?
I believe that's exactly what it is. I mean, it's oral tradition. Like, you know, like it tells you that in Hebrew when you read in Hebrew, like it literally tells you that this is something that's been passed down from people to people, and this is the best way you know how to pass it down. Like Adam and Shavar and all these type of things. These are just common denominator. These are things that connect people on higher levels. It's not saying that Adam was a person. It's not saying that Eve was a person. But if we look at it with the European mindset, that's all we would see. But if we look at it with the African mindset, knowing that griots passed down, or Babatunas, or whatever you want to call it, passed down these traditions the best way they knew how, and the way they knew how was to make these beautiful romanticized stories, then it all makes sense.
Hey, Khayyal, let me ask you a question. When was the book of Genesis written?
Which I guess I would say which time.
No. Let's look at it, because you're
No, I mean
saying,
if I say
because if I go by William Hallow brought down the Amorites. The Amorites have a connection to the biblical
Mhm.
tradition, but as
Yeah.
far as being written down, I mean, the consensus says it was written down after the exile, after the Babylonian exile, right? Now,
Well, I mean, it kind of it depends on what you're looking at. If you're reading like the Qumran scrolls or the Dead Sea Scrolls, you have the proto Semitic script in there, so it's gonna date a little bit farther back. Now, if you're looking at different
bro,
things, different texts,
there's no proto-Semitic script talking about Genesis, bro, in the
no,
New
no,
Testament. No.
I'm talking about if you look at the Dead Sea Scrolls when it starts off in better sheet, it's in the proto Semitic. Pull it up. It's
Okay.
it's it's not in Aramaic. It's in the Proto-Semitic script. So if you see that in a Proto-Semitic script, therefore you have to date it a little bit farther back than you would what you would see with the Aramaic. And so
Okay, but but
so
but remember though, what Resco and those, when they evaluated the biblical Hebrew and all the scripts, that's the Bible, they're saying that you can't really date the Bible late or early, because some of the old-fashioned biblical Hebrew, they find it in newer
mhm.
scripts. So you can't really date the Bible based off the scripts, because certain people knew how to write certain scripts. If I learn now how to learn to write or to read or to write biblical Hebrew, I could write biblical Hebrew. That doesn't mean I lived 4,000 years ago. You understand? So if
I mean
people know how to
yeah
write a
I mean
text,
I'm in full
so with
I'm in full agreement.
and by the way, I'm gonna double check that biblical proto Sinaitic too. I've never heard that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
go ahead.
It's go to dss.org or deadseascrolls.org. You can see the digital Dead Sea Scrolls, and you can see on there that the like as far as better sheet, and also I believe Job, and that's why they date Job as being so older than Bereshit or Genesis, because it's also in that same script type.
Okay. All right. So basically, this is what scholarship says. If we want to accept it, they're saying it's after the Babylonian exile, and one of the reasons why they come to that conclusion, because of how similar
What's
the
that ringing?
story, the Sumerian story, and the biblical story is. That's one of the main things that they came to that conclusion. It goes back to Deuteronomy 28 and the Esarhaddon Treaty, that is very similar to certain things in Deuteronomy 28. So this is how they date scriptures. They look at different cross comparative research. They look at other cultures and then see what they were writing, because the Esarhaddon Treaty, he wrote it to Tyre. He wrote it to other cultures. So when they see the similarity in the Bible, they're like, okay, maybe the person who wrote the Bible knew of the Esarhaddon Treaty, so they dated Deuteronomy to the 7th century. All right. But anyway, hey, listen, family, I gotta run. I gotta run. It's been wonderful, and we do this again.
Yes.
All right. All right.
Thank
Peace
you
and
for
love,
joining
family.
us.
All right, peace, King.
All right. Cool. Thanks, and thanks for the invite, by the way. Sis, we do it again.
Hey,
Peace
hey,
and love.
thank you for joining in,
Again,
man. I really appreciate you.
no problem. Again, sis, don't mix spirituality that you have with archaeology, linguistics, DNA, anthropology, and history. Don't do it. Don't do it. I don't think you should. It don't mix. It's like oil and vinegar, oil and water. It don't mix. All right. But peace and love, though.
All right. Have a good night. Okay, so my answer to that is truth and fiction. Of course, you do believe that Moshe was the author of the first 5 books. Of course, he was not there. It was given by divine revelation, the Most High or the Spirit, whatever you want to say. But it is a spiritual truth, but not a fact, because in order to be a fact, somebody has to be there and verify it, and then multiple sources have to also verify it. You can't verify one man and one woman. Okay, only they can.
I agree.
All
I
right.
agree.
So the next story, the Exodus. Truth, fact, or fact, fiction, or truth?
It's truth. I mean, there are facts that I guess will bag the Exodus story. You know, there's also facts that contradict it and prove it totally didn't happen. But we gotta look at the truth because the truth is based on perspective. And so if you're a person who just left out of this land and you're writing this story that you're passing down through oral tradition to the rest of your family, it's gonna be the best story. We just went through the worst conditions ever. Like just like you going out with your homegirls, you have a flat tire. This story is gonna be the most dramatic story you ever gave in your entire life.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? And like,
so we're
there's
looking at it
water.
through a cultural lens, you know, just like how, you know, in our community, we look at certain things like atrocities, which our white counterparts do not even feel or have to deal with at times, you know, so.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's based on perspective. Like if you were if you're the people who's looking at this like this is not a large event, then you're like, oh, that didn't happen. But if you're looking back on it on a point where maybe people did leave here, it was people that because it's like it's recorded in history. It was a large exodus of people that left out of that landmass. Now, the point that when you get into truth, when the Red Sea starts splitting, these type of things, these major events starting to happen, that's when you gotta look into it like, okay, did this really happen or is this being embellished a little bit?
Well, it may have been an instance where it was so miraculous that you can speak on it on a, like you up it. Like, for instance, excuse me, when I talk about my time when I was 5 years old and I was going to die we went to the beach, but in New York, the beaches are dirty. Mm-hmm. We had to go to the pool at Jones Beach. And my teacher simply were not watching me. And I just thought the pool was the pool. And I jumped in and I hit rock bottom. And I was looking up, like, how am I going to get it back to the top? Now, keep in mind, I'm a young New York inner city kid. I didn't know how to swim. And but sudden, I heard the voice of Yah say, kick. And I was like, I'm a kick, and I kicked and I came to the top of the water, fucked it up, and went back to playing. Now back then, if I told the story, it would have been like, yeah, I was at the bottom of the pool, came up, bumped it out, kept it going. Now I'm like, this is a miraculous story because I didn't even know how to swim,
Exactly.
And so now it's up, and I'm sure as it goes down the line, it'll be up and up and up. So,
exactly. If your kids tell that story, Mama told me when she was in the pool, she learned how to swim because God touched her. No, that's what I'm saying?
Sharks swim around and it goes on and on and on. Yeah.
Exactly. And so like that's what Hebrews do. And we believe it for being the romanticized version instead of the actual, like what actually happened. Like I've never seen.
Is it even in its exaggerated form? Is it less of a truth? At the end of the day, was it that I got saved? Right. That's about.
Yeah, you didn't die. Okay, so that was the truth. So, but at the same time, when you were passing it down and you're forcing other people to believe that God came by your side on the pool and it was sharks swimming around you and he pulled you from the sharks, that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah, because now people believe that they can swim with sharks and they're definitely going to be okay. But I think it is with a mature believer, what you will do is take everything with a grain of salt. So we're going to go to the next story. This is going to be controversial.
I'm gonna get this. I already know this. This is the Immaculate Deception.
Nope. We're not. You're getting ahead of me.
My bad. I was just guessing.
I'm mad Garfield left because I wanted to hear what he had to say. But the story of Ruth, and I talked about this with Abishai this morning. I'm on vacation, so I have time to talk to people and everything. It's so lovely. But the story of Ruth, fact, fiction, or truth?
Honestly, I'm gonna make a statement. I'm gonna say that the majority of this stuff is truth. It is some fact mixed with some fiction to create a narrative. Because you gotta understand what the Bible is. The Bible is historical literature. And once people understand that what it is, then we can make more sense out of it. Because if we're looking at it as it's an actual history book, when you're trying to find facts, that's not going to happen. But this is historical literature, meaning that it was written about a period of time, and it was made to attract people to read it. You know what I'm saying? Like, who wants to read a boring book? I don't.
Right. I mean, you want to make the story interesting so people,
give me some action. Give me some levitating. Give me some walking on water. Give me some raising from the dead. Yeah, give me some of that. And that's what we have.
Oh, we're going to talk about walking on water. We're getting to the New Testament. When I look at it, I feel that it is odd that everybody's name means their character in the story. And so when I look at the writings, I do believe that the writings were there to illustrate the carrying out of the law in realistic terms. Does it mean that there never was a Ruth or there never was a Boaz? Probably not. I mean, I think an atheist brought out that the cherry tree with George Washington, it was not, it's totally made up. But it's a story that emphasized how truthful he was. And that's a fact. Okay? And so, therefore, it's the same thing with Yahushua when we did the historical Yahushua. It was the truth. The New Testament is the truth in spiritual form, but it wasn't exactly the narrative of what exactly happened.
Now, I have major issues when you say the New Testament is true, because there's nothing that actually. Well, let me phrase it.
No, I'm talking about spiritual truth as far as.
Oh, okay, yeah. Spiritually,
realm.
It may spiritually make you feel good, and it may align to what you spiritually are connected to as far as your religion. But did that stuff actually happen?
Probably not. I will say most of it was not.
Was Jesus born of a virgin? I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say like 99. I'm gonna say 100% no, because that's actually added. You know what I'm saying?
It was an addition. It actually said something else before. But I have to say that when I spiritually consulted with Yah, he said it was true. And let me tell you why. It's a spiritual truth. It's not an actual truth. Okay. The spiritual truth in it is that he is involved there. This man, Yahushua, the historical Yahushua, was uplifted, exalted, considered his son through his power, because I believe that Yah is in control. Can
I ask you a question?
Uh-huh.
If you were not a Hebrew Israelite, would you believe that story at all?
Probably. Well, I don't believe that a woman got pregnant by herself. I don't believe that. I'm talking about spiritual truth in it, and that.
Yeah, I know. But you just said, like, spiritually, Yah came to you and he told you, or you had this revelation that it was some truth to Jesus being born from a virgin. And if you were
no, I'm not saying that there was some truth to him being born of a virgin. I'm saying that there was some truth in Yah's involvement there. And I know that because I've been pregnant and I have felt the Lord's hand.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree just based off the sole definition of the word Yahuwah. It means the source of existence. So, like, if you're dealing with someone who's becoming existing, and then he starts to exist.
You're dealing with Yah. Yeah, it's
So, I mean,
have you ever been in a room when somebody's giving birth? It's like the whole room feels it, So Yeah, I understand what you're saying. No, I don't believe that a virgin without any agency of man or without any spiritual, at least agency of man, somehow connecting sperm with the egg. No, no. And people wrongfully use the atom and
Yes.
Christ parallel, and I
I
hate it. And let me tell you why. Because Yah still used his creation to make Adam. Okay? And he used his creation to make Yahusha. And the way his creation works is that man and woman come together and they make offspring. So it's like you have to show me now if the story of Yahusha was that he came from nothing and God created from the dust and ground or from his mind and he manifested, then that would be an equal parallel. But when you talk about that Adam was made from the creation, so was Yahusha. He was made from the creation. And the creation has a code and a system that it operates on. And so, but spiritually, it is, I do accept it as a spiritual truth because God is involved. And I think a lot of people do not understand that. That's why we have a lot of men who can leave their offspring because they don't realize that God is involved in bringing this person here and he judges you, you know, accordingly. So that's the problem. So, okay, next story. Well, we kind of talked about virtual girl.
Yeah, all right. We can skip that one. You already know that one's false.
Yeah, I mean, like,
yeah, like it's nothing about that story that's like. First of all, that story is completely taken from every other surrounding culture. Like it's not even in any original text. When we first find that, it's gonna be from I believe. This is post Nicene Creed. I mean Nicene Council. I mean, so like
you see that in Egypt, but the Romans took it and remixed it.
Yeah, I mean you see it with Horus, and you see that throughout in Egypt, like you said, but you don't see that in
well, not exactly that, but like in Roman, it was that exactly, you know, and so that's how it was taking every page of their book. You know, it doesn't. So that's that. Okay, so the next story. Let's go there since you brought it up. Walking on water. Truth, fact, fiction, or truth?
Wait, that's gonna be fiction. It's gonna be a story representing the sun rising, and it's the same thing. It's again, it's a play on a Ra and Horus or a set story about him being the morning star. Like I literally can show you the inscriptions and the writings about Horus that predate Jesus by 2,000 years that says the exact same thing. But he was the morning star. He walked on water. Everything. It was definitely taken from that culture. And Horus is basically the manifestation of the Assyrian deity Assur.
Okay.
So,
my take is that it is fiction and truth. Here's why. It's fiction.
How do you get to pick both? Like, how do you get to pick fiction and truth? Like, you can't be
because
fake.
All truths are not facts. I can make a story about something that's true. Like, you're supposed to treat your friends with, and I can make up a totally fictitious story about it, but it brings home that truth, right?
Okay.
Okay. So that is what is happening with scripture. So I picked both because it is a truth. We can do what he did if we are focused and our minds are focused on him. Be renewed or be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
So you telling me that I can walk on water if I believe hard enough? That's what you're telling me.
Yes, I do. I believe it. I believe that you can defy supernatural means, and you have to understand what is supernatural. And I think.
Would you say that Yeshua walked on water? or are we just expected to do this because if we believe hard?
I don't know if the story is true. I would say that it's fictitious, but I can say that spiritually, yes, you can manifest things on a higher spiritual vibration to get things accomplished. And Christ was on that vibration. I don't know if he walked on water, you know.
But I guess my question is, if he didn't even walk on water, why do you think that we can walk on water?
Because the idea is there.
Because it's in the book.
The idea is there. I was talking to my friend from college, right? And we were talking about whether time travel existed, right? And
I would actually believe time travel existed before I believe Jesus walked on water.
Okay, but I mean, they're both so far-fetched. But I would say this, that he did have some proof because he tried to patent things. He's like the guy from The Pursuit of Happiness. He is just like him. Like, he always is innovative. He's going to be a millionaire before it's all said and done. He is. But he's still outside the box. That's why I say that. But he said in order to get a patent, because he already tried, you have to have a working model. You can't just get a patent, right? And so he's like, there's a patent for time travel. I was like, what? And when you look it up, it is a patent for time travel. And I don't mean to sound way off out there, but it's like, how do you get a patent for time travel when the requirement is that you have a working model?
You know what? And this is a off the air conversation, but in 2008, I had a 4-hour conversation with NASA myself because I called them, my ignorant ass, and I wanted to talk to them about. God, no, I promise you, I was on the weed really hard, and I came up with an idea on how to travel through time, and it was brilliant. So I didn't call NASA in Huntsville, Alabama, and talked to an engineer, and he was like, "Sir, we already have that taken care of."
They do. You cannot get a patent unless you can prove that you have some kind of working model, even if it's small scale. Like, remember Deja Vu, where they just sent a letter through?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So you have a working model.
Yeah, I'm not gonna talk about my time travel on experiences online because I know people killing me on Facebook.
I know, cloning and everything.
I know they wait. They're like, "Oh, this dude crazy." I knew it.
Yeah, you know, it is crazy, but you have to wonder, why are the requirements being disregarded, or are the requirements being met? That is what happened. And that's what you have to question. And so, I mean, like him, he is an inventor of things, and he's always trying to come up with something different and new. And he's always trying to, you know, change the world, which is one of the reasons that he became my friend. And he was able to give me that information. He was like, I tried to get my patent, you know, but most of the time you don't have that kind of social capital where you're dealing with people who are doing those things to be able to tell you, like, look, if they got a patent for this, they must have some type of working for it. You know?
Yeah, you have to have a working model. You can't have a patent on an idea.
No, like, yeah, let me go patent it. No, you have to have a working.
And you know, to deal with the time travel, I'll go ahead and tell you, this is my idea for time travel. And I know this is way off your subject, but the way time travel is, and this is the Hebrews are not gonna like this, but so in everything that we do, we have to change our mediums of transportation. Like if you're going to the store, you might walk. If you're going to visit your family in Chicago, you may take a plane or you may take a boat. And if you're traveling through galaxies, you got to change your vehicle. And what we're based on, we're all experiences and memories and energy. And when we have the ability now, we can actually transfer energy and information electronically through a text message.
Right.
Like if I was to send you a picture from my phone to your phone, we both have the exact same image. You see what I'm saying?
Right. I still don't understand, by the way. So, but continue.
Yeah, but the only thing that separates you from that image is your body now. And if they can make another body that goes with you now, you have now traveled through time because they were able to send your memories somewhere galaxies away faster than the speed of light. So now you can travel faster than the speed of light because that's how technology works. Like you can send information faster than light. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay.
I'm a nerd. This is my nerd side coming out.
No, I was thinking like contemplating when I have a moment. Okay. So, okay, the next story we're going to talk about. And I'm going to say this, and this is what I don't like about people who believe in Yahusha, but they don't want to deal with facts. The fact is that you say that Isaiah 7:14 is talking about a virgin birth, but the context of the story was about a sign for the king on whether he was going to win or not. If you read the whole verse, that's what happened. That's what the sign was given for, and he did win and was victorious. So that sign had to be fulfilled. Go to chapters later, you see it being fulfilled. So it's not that I don't believe in dual prophecies. I do. But at the same time, that is not what that was talking about. You know, it just wasn't. It was about a very specific event. It was about a very specific, you know, moment. And we have to understand that God was giving a sign in distress for people. Now, could it mean something else later? You know, that a virgin will conceive. It could, but you would have to. I mean, you have to do a lot of maneuvering to make it be so. You know,
a lot of things have to come into play.
Right. And it's just like, I mean, and I got checked on this, you know, because, you know, I'm still Yahusha, but I got checked on it. And I was like, what? I was like, I'm going to prove it. No, I was wrong. It wasn't necessary. So even if you believe in virgin birth, go ahead and believe it, but it was not necessary and it was never prophesied. It just wasn't.
Exactly. The virgin birth is not it's not necessary for you to believe in a person named Yahusha. And actually, the whole point of Yahusha was to bring people back to Yah, not to bring him to Yahusha. You know what I'm saying? He was very, very exclusive. I mean, he was very, very upfront about that. I am not. I'm here on my Father's word. You know what I'm saying? And people forget about that, and they want to fight for keeping Yahusha more relevant than keeping the Father's name relevant.
Well,
Yahusha
was the action of Yah as far as saving his people, as far as and we talked about the changing of the covenant this morning.
Let me ask you a question. Who did he save?
He saved his people.
Who got saved because of Yahusha? Answer that for me.
Okay, so you can't that people.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, if Israel got their,
Israel's not saved yet, but there was some groundwork in the Old Testament where that had to be done. Like he had to come in the midst of the week. It was some things that had to be done first. But eventually, we're still all waiting for the same Messiah who's going to do the same thing. And
that's the whole point of the whole Zoroastrian conversation, is because we need to remove this waiting on the Messiah mentality from us, because that's not what we're supposed to do.
No, according the apostles to go.
Yeah, because according to scriptures, we're supposed to actually be doing something. We're not supposed to be waiting on somebody and believing on something outside of ourselves. We're supposed to believe in ourselves. It says specifically that a Messiah will rise from within. But he would not from heaven. Now he wouldn't come down from heaven. He would be one of us.
Right.
And we have to do things. We have to do things in America, in this captivity, or wherever you are. We have to do things right now to do Deuteronomy 30. We got to reclaim our culture. We don't know what that is. You ask the person, what's Hebrew culture? I don't know. We got to keep our friends.
I would say that I believe in a Elohim who is all powerful in that I don't believe that people can corrupt things so much that it works against him. It's only going to work for him. They meant it for evil, I meant it for good. And it always works out. Like even people who do me wrong.
That's the whole thing though. She like it don't work out. Like if you keep believing something gonna work out, it ain't ever gonna work out for you. Like if I believed every day, man, I'm gonna get $1 million, and I don't ever do nothing to get that $1 million to earn it. If I don't put together a business plan and I don't put together a structured organization, then I can't make $1 million. You see what I'm saying? Like even these rappers who go through this thing, these dudes are smart. These dudes have legal teams. They may blow the money, but they actually know how to get it at least. You know what I'm saying? And we have no clue because we sit here waiting on some kind of salvation that ain't ever gonna come because it does not exist. You see what I'm saying?
We're already built with it, and we have to act upon it. And things like depression and suppression and oppression get in the way of that. And so I feel like the message of the word is freedom, and taking yourself out of that and realizing that if he could do it, you could. If they could do it, you could. These people who were chosen or who are highlighted in the scriptures aren't the likeliest people. They are the ones who shouldn't ever, if we talk about the righteousness that Israel tries to put on today.
Man, let me tell you about the history of who we come from. Because if you believe that we are a Hebrew Israelite, that means that we come from a people who called the Shashu. Have you heard of Shashu?
No.
All right, so the Shashu or the Habaru are these people that were in the Levant region, and these people were not holy people. These people were freaking, like, they were the murderers. These were the bandits, the pirates, whatever you want to call them. These were the vagrants of society. And these people came together and they formed an alliance amongst themselves based on the principles of the Torah. And they actually used that to build a nation. Like we're looking for this nation to be rebuilt by spiritual people. That's not how it's gonna come. It's gonna come from bloodshed and taking. You see what I'm saying? Like you can look at the scriptures.
But spiritual, you do realize that. You do realize that, well, this is not left into the hands of our ancestors. It's in our hands, and we have to make moves. But the bloodshed is always the bloodshed that we.
But that's a separation though. Like everything that I do, the ancestors come first because that's the Hebrew way. Like everything that we do, we have to acknowledge our ancestors, and our ancestors got to be at the forefront of our decisions. And like what happened was,
I'm not saying that they shouldn't. What I'm saying is that we know that from our ancestors, but our ancestors still died, no matter how they fought or whatever. Like they died.
Yeah, they died.
How do we fight in a different way? And this is why when voting came up and people was like, don't vote, don't say nothing about where your money is going. You better say something. You don't have to believe in it, but you have to make the action toward making your money count. And so
I think if you are a quote unquote conscious person and you are not voting, then you fooling yourself. You are not conscious.
Right.
Because you don't understand that you have like and I understand.
It's not about really it's going to happen. It's about making the step that I want this to happen. Like it's about making moves. Like I've never been in a situation where I have gotten things accomplished without having to make moves. Like so where do people get this thought from that you haven't had to act it? You have to act on what you believe.
Because it comes from Christianity, because it comes from the Christian doctrine. And this is a doctrine that only Negroes have received. White people don't believe in this. Chinese people don't believe in this. Asians don't believe in this. Don't nobody believe in this except people who are the descendants of slaves. And we all believe that Jesus is going to somehow come back and save us. And don't nobody else in the world believe this shit. You see what I'm saying? Don't nobody believe this. And so we put all our faith and trust into this imaginary thing that's going to happen that ain't never going to happen. And so it makes us complacent. And so all we do, we go to the lottery ticket store, we buy some scratch outs, and we pray to God that we win instead of putting a business plan together. Instead of, getting your kids into a better school system, all we do is sit home and we get home at night and we pray that little Johnny don't get shot or get attracted to gangs. How about you educate little Johnny? How about you take him out of their environment? Like,
how about you invest in their friends as well? Because taking somebody out of an environment, I went from New York to Denver, Colorado, and I went to Denver, Colorado, and I'm sorry for those who are listening from my bellow, but y'all tried to act like y'all was hard, y'all was in the ghetto. This thing looked like Thousand Oaks to me, And I was like, why y'all trying to act so hard? But they just kind of felt like when they received, and I did experience this later, when they were received, it's like, did you ski to school and all this other stupid questions, but you know what it is and you know what it isn't. Why do you have to be hard and ghetto? And why is that your goal when people are moving here from other places who don't want to go through those things?
Man, like I'll let you know, like for real though, like I come from a very, very hood environment. Like I in the hood, like where I'm from, like it's not really like this suburban people are attracted to. Like people that are from there don't want to be there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So people who are not like it's like when you're not from the hood, it's cool to be hood because you can go home and you act like you ain't hood no more. But when you're from the hood at night, them gunshots don't stop.
You're like, what's happening to me?
Exactly. And so like you want everything in your mind is about, man, I gotta get myself out of this situation. I'm not, or the other option is you can say, I'm gonna accept this and I'm gonna be a part of it. And that's what our job is like, not to wait for Jesus to come and pour this wisdom on our kids. Is parents teach these kids, reach out, do outreach. You know what I'm saying? Like have conversations.
Here's the point that I will make. Christ already did it. Now it's your turn. Get on it and do. If you believe that the gospel is 100% infallible truth of God, then why don't you hold yourself responsible to do what Christ did, even if it meant your life?
Mm-hmm. I'm with you when you're right.
Yeah, whatever. But you and Garfield ain't gonna come in between my family's historical information. And
I think you missed what I was trying. I'm not trying to come in between you and your family's historical information. All I'm saying is that, like, for you, you may very well be a descendant of Aboriginal peoples in America, and you understand that, right? Like, I'm not disagreeing with that. I have no argument with that. But what my argument is for you to say that all of these people that are in America come from Africa. That's my argument.
I never said that. Excuse me.
I know that's all I'm trying to voice to you. This is what I voiced yesterday about the 12 tribe chart, because we were talking about the Native American. They're all from Gad.
All the people who came on from the boats are Israelites. That would be the same thing,
I didn't say that. I've never said that. I've never even hinted to that. Who said? He said, "Oh, okay." Like I've
based off of his and what he proved.
Like I've never thought that, never said that. I don't even know anybody who believes that. You know what I'm saying? Like we all understand that we were in West Africa, and honestly, the majority of the people who were sold as slaves, if you believe that these were Hebrews, other Hebrews sold these people.
Yeah.
That's a fact. Like you can't get around that.
Back to Brother Benea, and you told me on Facebook that I was just posting a YouTube video, but he actually had resources that I did go back and look, and it was true. Brother Benea was reading from books about how they put Judah on there, and that's why it got the name of Judah, slave coast, kingdom of Judah. That's how it actually got it, and they documented.
Okay, that name is not Judah. That's another misconception that people That name is a Portuguese name. That it has nothing to do with the
That's
people.
what I'm saying.
That name means
That's what they
that,
call
that
it. And it was
yeah,
their
that name. The name is Vida. It's a Portuguese name. That title also is translated to Spanish, and in Spanish that means a lesser class of person.
yeah, but
That's what that means.
were considered because they
And so,
were being exiled from Spain, going into Portugal. They were allowed to stay for a certain amount of time, and then they were expelled. And those who would not conform to Christianity had their children stripped away from them and shipped on a boat and sent to the west coast of Africa.
okay, I'm not going to disagree with you on any of that. All I'm saying is that I'm saying specifically that the kingdom of Judah does not mean the kingdom of Judah. That's all I'm saying.
That doesn't mean the kingdom of Judah, but the Portuguese did name it the kingdom of Judah because the people that they received were claiming that they were from Judah.
No, they weren't.
Yeah, they
Not
weren't.
not one person. Let's look on the map. Let's look on the map, and let's look critically at the kingdom of Judah, of Judah. That is in Benin and Togo area. That's where the Gadambe people live, and also the people who are associated with the Baltic, I guess, ethnicity. You got the people who are some Yoruba who are scattered through the Oyo Kingdom. None of those tribes have ever said that, hey, we're from Judah.
No, none of those tribes did, but the people that they placed there and said got eaten up by alligators were claiming that they were from Judah. That's what they were telling the Portuguese. So do you have a reference to what they were telling the Portuguese at the time before they were exiled? They were telling them.
So let me ask you. Let's think about this for a second, okay? Please, let's think about this for a second. First of all, they wouldn't even called it Judah because there's no J in
You weren't calling it Judah.
and at that point in time. So what now?
They weren't calling it Judah or anything like that.
What were they calling it?
I would believe Yehuda. You know, that's I'm sure.
So now they're calling it Yahuda, right?
Yahuda, the Ibri, whatever the name is, they were called who they were called. But we know our white.
Oh my bad. I had to get my camera off.
Our white people, you know, name people what they can. So, I mean, our European people, I'm not going to say white people, but European will call things what they say it was. And so it depends on whether they control that or whatever, but they have. So I'm not saying that.
I am.
So what you're saying is that this is totally made up, that there were not Jews in Portugal, even though it's documented in Spain, Portugal, that they went through there. I mean, now those are
that's not what I'm saying. Listen closely to what I'm saying. Like, what I am saying is there is no tribe in West Africa called the tribe of Judah. That's what I'm saying. What I'm also saying is that the particular place that you're referencing is in Benin and Togo. And the people who live there, they all trace back for the large amounts. Let me phrase it. The largest amounts of them trace back to Gad, Dan, Manasseh, and Ephraim.
So
in that area. So these people are from the northern kingdom. They don't call themselves Jews. They never even heard that term because it wasn't even invented when they left.
So you're saying,
you see what I'm saying?
Were invented later?
Do I say what now?
Are you saying that people who call themselves Jews are other people? They're not even of the ancient people? Because I did
this is what Garfield was going into. But when you have these people who were these Jews who were part of the slave trade, they actually went to the masses, and this is post, I would probably say 1800s when they first started this. They started to go to West Africa, and they started to convert these Hebrews into Judaism. And when you convert a Hebrew into Judaism, now you're now a Jew. So now you have these 50,000 or 50 million Igbo who say, yeah, I'm a Jew. But you a descendant of Gad. You're not a Jew. You're a Gadite. You would never. You're not. You don't even agree with it. You went to war with the Southern Kingdom. You see what I'm saying? Like you're not even cool with these people. But you were taught that you were a Jew.
Exactly. And so then we have the issue that the Igbo were called the Jews by Kissinger in the message to Nixon. And so the Igbo have always been fighting in that area. Everybody in that area, no matter if they look alike or not, they've been fighting. And they're considered to not have any kind of territory or anything to land. This directly fits with the history.
Well, can I give you some history on that? So the reason why the Igbo and the Yoruba have conflict is because Europeans actually entered. Okay, so before that, they all had different land. You got Yoruba land, you got Igbo land, you have the Delta, you have all these different.
In the Igbo land, they were given that land. That's what the oral tradition that I heard said, that they were actually given that land, and then they wanted to own it as a country. That's what I'm hearing from the Biafra movement as far as the story of why they want to own that land. So is that not true?
No. Well, it's some things that you got to clarify. So when you're dealing with the Biafra movement, Biafra is like, hey, we don't want to convert to what you guys are doing because we're strong enough in what we already have. And that's what Biafra is these people they're trying to be implemented. They're trying to be pushed to be something in Nigeria they don't believe in. And so these people are trying to hold on to their inheritance or their sovereignty as individuals, and the government is forcing them to assimilate to what they want them to be. That's what Biafra is about. It has nothing to do with them being given the land because they already had that land, but the British gave them back control over their land, but they would have control over their land if they were to follow certain guidelines. Mm-hmm. That's what Biafra is. And that's different than saying, hey, we're going to give you this land.
The issue,
you know what I'm saying?
Was because of a difference of culture between the two people. However, if you say there, those people were
honestly there. The Yoruba, the Delta, the Odu, the Igbo, all these people, they actually they share 95% of the same culture. The only difference is their dialect. That's the only difference. They have the same spiritual system. They do the same thing. They have a henotheistic mindset. When they have Chikwu or Olodumare, or they may have Yeve, or they have these different deities placed on the top of this system, and they have other systems, which is the deity structure, or the my mind went blank, but golly, my mind went totally blank. Can't talk right now. But anyway, you have this system that's already established that they're dealing with, and this system is what each and every person in West Africa is doing, but they're only doing it in their own language, and that's the only difference. Like if you look at if you put it on mute and listen to a person who's practicing Orisha, and then you got the same person who's practicing Yele Vadum, and you got on mute the same person who's practicing the Igbo system dealing with Chikwu, you won't be able to tell the difference because they're doing the exact same thing. They're doing the same rituals. They're doing it the same way. Only difference is they're vocalizing it differently. The same way as us now. We're actually speaking the biblical Hebrew when we're talking about Yahuwah, but that actually means the exact same thing as Olodumare. It means the exact same thing as Chikwu. It means the exact same thing as Yeve. And like we got to understand that these people are not calling on the name; they're calling on the title of what this deity is. Because you already know, like Yahuwah is not a name; it's an actual thing. It's a bird. Like that's not his name. Is that what causes his existence?
Who gives the information? It was based on the bird. We can't decipher who gave the information first. Was it the European colonizers, or was it the people themselves, or
I mean,
the kingdom of Judah in the first place, and why they do that. So to say that they can say Wahida, so they named it Judah, that's a lie. That is a lie. I mean, come on. So, I mean, get out of here. Like, where are they getting that from? Those are two different words with two different, and we speak English, two different soundings of the first.
no, they're not. They're exactly the same. So Vida and the place you have like Vida is actually Spanish. The Ouidah, that's Portuguese. They mean the exact same thing.
So where did Judah come from?
Where did Judah come from?
It's on the Bowen map. Where did it come from?
You talking about the Ouidah on the map that's in Africa?
I'm talking about the Ouidah that's on the map, on the Bowen map that has been updated. I think.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking. That's the whole point I'm talking about. I'm talking about it was created by the Portuguese. Like you gotta look at that map. That's a Portuguese map. That's not. We didn't make that map. Like you gotta understand. Like okay. Let's stop for a second. Okay, so what do people in that? What do people in
now? Hello.
You see where I'm going?
Conversation about semantics, about what it's called in one language, what it's called in another. When we talk about what Judah would be recognized by others who would write about it, they said the kingdom of Judah, and it's what they wrote in their.
And what I'm saying is the people who wrote about it were not the people who were there. That's what I'm saying. Like the people who live in Nigeria do not say they Nigerians. The people who live in Ghana do not claim to be Ghanaians. The people who live listen to me for a second. And the people who lived in Benin did not claim to be Vida. No one claims to be that. Like you gotta know somebody who can like reach out to Rabbi Equeta. You know what I'm saying? He actually lives in the.
You're saying, let me clarify, you're saying that Vida was the name that the people gave to themselves.
I'm saying that Vida is the name that the Portuguese named that place. The people of that land had no ties to being ever called that. You can ask anybody who's from West Africa, they've never heard of that before. That's the one map that y'all found, well not y'all, but somebody has found on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook or Google that
it's the Bowen map. It was a real map.
The population
from somebody.
Not even a map that it's ever been used. And they're like, oh, look.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, you're going in and out. But it was a map, it's a real map by Emmanuel Bowen, who was a real person who they actually found. And they called it Wahida and they called it Judah. Now, of course, when those people read the word that we currently have, they are not going to understand what Judah and all these tribes that they are calling whatever. There's a language and semantical difference. So what I'm saying to you is that if they were calling it Judah and their history said that they took people who they believed was from what they called Judah and then they named it, and how can you say that's fallacy?
Because it's not being called Judah. That's like you're missing that. Like I don't understand like how you missing that. Like if I have a word that sounds kind of like Sheeka, and if I have it, if it says Sheba, is that the same word? No, it's not. And that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to make it sound kind of like Judah, so it's gotta be Judah.
I'm not saying that it sounds like Judah.
No, that's exactly what you're saying because it does not say Judah.
Of Judah in there,
it does not. No, it does not.
They have written.
It says
these people are from the kingdom of Judah. They wrote it in their own books.
No, it does not. No, it does not. It says Vida. It's different.
No. I'm not asking you. I'm telling you that they wrote it in their literature. That these people and what they did with them. They did it.
And these people and what they said specifically were these people are Jews and they are living in the kingdom of Judah. That's what it says. I've read those articles before. I read all those reviews. I read this stuff. You're not talking to somebody who's not read this stuff. And what I'm saying to you is that everybody who is a Hebrew Israelite to Caucasians are called Jews.
Not about what it's called. The Bowen map is about where they could trade different things. Slave coast, Gold Coast, this coast. This is what that map was made for. And they called it Slave Coast the Kingdom of Judah because that is where they placed those slaves. That's why they called it that.
No.
It's not what those people called themselves. They were the people in power. They were the ones creating the map. They were the people whose stuff still lives today, and that's what they were calling them. So it doesn't matter whether they know themselves as that. Just like we didn't regard ourselves as niggers. They called us that. And if
that has nothing, that doesn't even equate.
Yeah,
that's not even the same type of conversation. Like what I'm saying is this. I'm saying specifically that the people who live in that region, none of them come from the tribe of Judah. Now, when Caucasians went to West Africa and they saw that these people were keeping Hebraic faith, and it was like, hey, these people, they actually doing what the Jews do. They must be.
I posted.
And this is documented. Listen for a second. This is
listen. If they actually say it, you can go on Wikipedia and they say that he what is it? King Philip sent people from the tribe of Judah to San Tome, but they got eaten by alligators. That is what it says. Anyway, though,
and no, you're definitely not listening to what I'm saying. What I'm saying to you is, again, the people who lived in West Africa were not the tribe of Judah. I'm not saying that there may not have been people who were scattered amongst them, who have been a couple sprinkles here and there. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, if you look at that name in particular, that name is a Portuguese name. It does not equate to Judah. That is a historical and a linguistic fact. The second thing I'm saying is the people.
Or the semantics.
I am, but I am though. That's the whole point. We're talking about two different things. I'm talking about linguistic. Those things are not. They do not. The second thing I'm saying is that the people who live there in this place of question did not claim as a whole to be tribes of Judah. You would not find any tribe that says we are connected as a whole to the tribe of Judah.
They claim to be God and tribes of all the things that these Europeans are naming them. But you accept that. I think they make
I do what now?
Like we're the God people. That. Yeah. They made those connections.
I don't call
that they came from
on the main. I try my best not to call people by European titles. So if I'm going to talk to somebody, I'm going to call them by the title that their ancestors called themselves. So I'm not going to say, hey, okay, you're a Negro, you're this. But I'm going to say, hey, if you're Indigenous American, and you already know if you're Indigenous American that if there are no people called Cherokee, there are no people who are called, Choctaw. These are all European terms. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
And the same thing applies to Africa. These are not what people were calling themselves.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. We're all called what Europeans say we were called because they are dominating at this moment. So I do agree.
And so the Portuguese went to West Africa and said, "This is the land of Vida," which it literally means the land of the subordinates or the land of the people who are beneath us. That's what the title means. Look up Vida and do some research on that, because that's not a Hebrew name. Hold on, let's stop. Please stop. That's not a Hebrew name. That's not a West Africa. That's not a Benin name. That's not a Gadambi name. That's not an Igbo name. That is a Portuguese name that means subordinates of people who are less than you. It's a caste system.
And people looked at Israelites and those who claimed to be them as slaves and subordinates. And that's why Arabs said we're selling the people from the book. So with that though, We can go all day.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like.
For real, we're gonna do this all day. For real, I love you. For real, I like talking to you.
Go at it. It's the battle of the minds. Even with Garfield, I enjoyed having it too because I, unlike some people in the chat, can understand when somebody's taking a different position. And you would. If you don't come from that culture and stuff, and you don't hear the stories that are passed down, then you would automatically assume those stories have to be nothing. But then we accept stories that actually happen to be true, like the Tuskegee experiment. That was a rumor in our community for a long time, and it was proven later. So we have to stop tearing down our oral tradition. We don't have to believe them wholesale, but we have to take it with a grain of salt. Just like we have to do the word, which was a big oral. There's a big oral tradition. Not everything is an eyewitness account or true, but prophetically or inspired by those who wrote it. And that's why I take it full sale as a spiritual truth, because it doesn't matter. True, but prophetically or inspired by those who wrote it. I think that's what spiritual truth, because it doesn't matter.
Can you hear me?
Are you playing it back?
Nah.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. So, it is what it is. Everybody has to be convinced in their own mind. And I will say this, what I've seen a lot in Israel is that when people don't believe what you do, what you want to do is you want to take them out. I can't talk to them. I don't want to do this. Oh, they're wicked. They're evil and stuff because they don't believe what you do. But you don't even believe what you did a year. Huh? Hello? Can you hear me? You don't even believe what you did a year ago if you're spiritually growing, okay? So stop being a judge. Stop trying to paint people wicked just because they don't believe what you do. And start trying to at least be cordial to people and represent Christ in how you deal with people if you believe in him. So, and if you believe in the Most High, then you really should be acting and governing yourself accordingly. It is time for Hebrews, Israelites, whatever you want to call yourselves, to stop attacking one another and find common ground. Do better. Do better. You cannot say what is wicked. You are not the judge. The judgment comes in Revelation, and who's doing it is not you. Or not you for sure, but the Most High, okay? That is where judgment lies. That's where judgment is going to happen. That's where it's going to be. So stop attacking people. Learn how to talk to people who think differently than you. Me and Khayyal have very wildly different beliefs, but I'm not coming from a infallible word eyewitness account type of situation. But at the same time, we do disagree on things, polarity at times. But we're still able to have the conversation, laugh with one another, fellowship with one another, and hash it out. And if you can't do that, then you have not matured in this faith. You have not. And you need to get on your knees and pray for the maturity to deal with others who do not believe the same as you. You do it every day at work when you're getting paid. Learn how to do it spiritually. That's my final words. Khayyal, do you have final words?
Nah, I mean, yeah, I do have final words. I just want to give all thanks and praises to the ancestors that paved the way for us to be here. I want to give praise and, the utmost praise to Olodumare, Yahuwah, Yeve, anything that you subscribe to, Chikwu, they all mean the same thing. We uplift those and everything that we do. And I also want to give thanks to, for you for being a cordial host and allowing me to voice my opinion, even though we disagree for a lot of stuff, but we do it out of a place of love. And I really hope and pray that a lot of people can have civil dialogue and civil discussions without getting mad, because I don't understand, like literally, like I love you, I love Garfield, like neither one of us agreed on anything today, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna sit here and disrespect you. I'm not gonna sit here and disrespect Garfield. It's all respect, because at the end of the day, we're all on the same mission. We're trying to find something for our people. We're trying to better our people. We're trying to better our situation. We're trying to find our indigenous spirituality. We're trying to find our indigenous culture, and all those things, man. I can't do nothing. I can't ever hate that. All I can do is show love for that, and I really appreciate you for allowing us to come on, well, allow me to come on your platform, and I be.
Oh, you're going out. You're going in and out. Stay still.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Wait, you're muted. Unmute. Touch the microphone. You're muted. Touch microphone. Let me try to unmute you. Here you go. Hello? Nope. You must have did it on your end.
What about now? Can you hear me?
There you go. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're back muted. There you go. There you go. Khayyal. Hello? Hello? You're muted again. Touch it again. There you go. Okay, touch it. Touch mic. There you go. Now? There you go. All right.
Okay, I'm back. This is way too different. All right, so what I'm saying is, I first and foremost, I want to give thanks to the ancestors still, for fighting they fight, for allowing us to be here today. I want to give thanks to Hua, Olodumare, Chikwu, whatever these spiritual systems or spiritual systems would be, whatever dialect we're speaking in, I respect all those things. Thirdly, I want to thank you as being a gracious host for allowing us to have a civil dialogue, because a lot of times you're dealing with Hebrews or religious folk, it don't ever turn out right. You know what I'm saying? It goes into a fight or a blessing or whatever, and it's been all love with you. And every time I talk to you, it's always the same thing. Like, we disagree. We may not agree on everything, but at the end of the day, we hang up the phone. We're like, you know what, sis? You still my sis. You know what I'm saying? And like, we gotta remember that's the most important thing. If you don't agree with me, I don't agree with you. It's no reason to dog me out or be in my timeline talking crazy about I'm going to hell, and just talk to me, man. Like it's ridiculous. Like, that's the stuff I see on my timeline, but it's just let's just be together, man. Like, you don't have to agree with me. I don't have to agree with you. We can have civil discussions and we can find out what's the best idea for each other. But we got to stop just trying to make people and berate people and make them think that they're less of a person if they don't believe exactly what you believe in. And that's just what I want and hope and dream, But I don't know if it's gonna happen no time soon. But that's my final word. I just really wish that we could get through these difficulties to actually love each other as Black people who have the same struggle, instead of forcing people into a paradigm that they don't believe in or even agree with. So, shalom, sis. Now, thank you very much for your time. You spent about 2 hours. You're awesome.
I try to keep it short because I hate when I see a 5 hour or 8 hour video. I feel like those people are, first of all, wasting your life. Like, you're online for 8 hours, but I do see how the time can get away from you. But you have to be cognizant. You want people to hear what's going on, even in disagreement, so they can take a side. Now, what I do want to say is that those who are in the chat, there's no need to be rude. Okay, if you disagree, you just disagree. You present what you have, to edify the conversation versus being disregarding and trying to berate and insult people. If you have to insult people, get up off this YouTube. right now. I'm just telling you that. Get up off this YouTube. This ain't the place for you. But if you have some information, because everybody is coming to their conclusions because they're reviewing information, then that can be helpful. And if you want to be helpful, we welcome you. But if you want to be insulting, then you got to roll. Okay, so it is what it is. I was motivated. Brother Khayyal kind of like motivated me yesterday after we had this conversation offline. And I was like, man, we should have had that online because it would have been so good for people to hear, even in disagreement. And that's why we have these conversations. So with that being said, we have volume 2 coming up. I'm coming with, Brother Khayyal is way to the left of me. Brother Abishai is way to the right of me, and we're gonna have another conversation about fact, fiction, or truth, and we're going to review stories from the scriptures as well, and give insight on how we're receiving that. And so I hope you do the work too. Do the work. Have these conversations with your friends and keep your head, and respect people. And then you can hammer out some things too. Okay. So I wish you all peace and blessings. Thank you, Tranquil 7. I know who you are. But I'm not going to talk stuff to you, but thank you for your subscription. And I just wish you all peace and blessings and shalom, peace, but that you just love one another, please. Please love one another and treat unto others as you want others to
Amen.
do. Okay, hallelujah.
Ashe.
Shalom, shalom.